What's going on, fellow A-plusers? It is your host, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, streaming for you guys live today over on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch as well. We got ourselves a stacked show, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable mentions, live viewer questions, and of course, some incredible topics as we're going to be getting down into the casting for Fantastic Fours. We've got some names to definitely be announced. We're also going to be getting into a deep Ahsoka preview as we're just weeks away from the brand new Star Wars series, along with some Gal Gadot possibly confirming a new Wonder Woman movie, plus plenty more, guys. So we'll certainly see you on the other half. What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of A-Plus Hero Reports. As you see, we got my boy Stuart Branscombe in the house with us today, getting to join us. What's up, buddy? How you been, man?
Hey, doing good. That new intro we got is so freaking catchy. It's so hard not to kind of bob my head to it.
I love it, right? I found myself dancing to it a little bit too. So yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm really glad with the rebranding. There's certainly more work to definitely be done. Well, Stuart and I actually just talked about this behind the scenes before we went live. The idea of maybe getting some transitions done, some video intros for honorable mentions and live viewer questions, along with maybe some report cards around here as we start reviewing and grading, I should say, maybe some movies and television series for you guys. So a lot of work to certainly be done behind the scenes. But yeah, I'm loving how everything's coming along. No Indy here today. I thought he was going to certainly try and join us. Maybe if anything, he'll pop up in the live viewer chat with you guys today, but we'll definitely keep you posted. But it's just you and I, Stuart. Do you think we can hold down the fort today?
Hells to the fuck yeah, we got this. I shouldn't have sworn this early in the video. I feel like we just already demonetized.
Demonetized, so yeah. They're just gonna. No, you're good. But how was your week, man? You seen any movies? Any recommendations in the movie theaters? What's been going on with you?
Oh god, exhausted. That's how my week was. Yeah, as I'm sure, because you talked about this last week. Barbie and Oppenheimer have been doing crazy numbers at the box office, and working at a restaurant movie theater, it has been really, really insane this past couple of weeks because the movies are both still going incredibly strong. First weekend for Barbie, great. Loved it because the people seeing it were actually there to have a good time. Really fun. This past weekend, though, oh my gosh, almost all of our Barbie customers are just monsters. Like it has been the worst. But I'm just glad to finally be finally have my weekend. And it looks like you are frozen, or maybe I'm the one who is frozen. I cannot tell. I heard you for a second. Nope. Dang it. Looks like you are currently frozen. I will give it a couple seconds. But yeah, Barbenheimer though. Okay, so it is okay. So apparently Adam is the one who is frozen, not me. But yeah, so Barbenheimer. If anyone here has seen either of them, it as much as it's been exhausting the work, there's a reason these two movies are doing really well in theaters right now. Had a good time watching both of them. I did do a double feature, I believe sometime last week, and did Oppenheimer first, then Barbie. Adam, you are back because I can see you moving now. Oh, wait. Okay, you're kind of you're fidgeting a bit. I can hear you though. I heard that laugh.
You heard me a little bit?
Yeah, I can hear you. Bit?
Okay, yeah, I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. Like literally, I've been dropping in and out of connection today. So I'm hoping that this holds true, at least holds up through the entire show in regards to clearing up for us, but we'll see if it happens or not. If anything, hopefully Stuart will be able to tackle some of these for you guys a little bit, or deep dive into them if I'm not around. But yeah, can you still hear me, Stuart?
I sure can. So have you had an opportunity to watch Barbenheimer?
I still have not, man. I still have not. I got the opportunity to go see Oppenheimer, and then like 2 hours and 30 minutes into it, it immediately we had somebody I think pulled the fire alarm at the theaters, and so we had to go and like evacuate and everything like that. So I literally almost finished the movie and never got a chance to going back to the theaters to see it. So I haven't finished Oppenheimer. I haven't checked out Barbie. I still need to see freaking Mission Impossible. And now we got TMNT in the movie theaters. There's just so much out there to watch right now.
I am so behind on the Mission Impossible movies, so I'm gonna wait before watching this one for it to come out digitally, and then I'm just gonna binge all of them on Paramount the same way my girlfriend and I did with the 007 movies when the last one came out.
Yeah, I need to, if anything, I definitely need to finish binging Mission Impossible. I think I had numbers 5 and 6 to still go. I've seen them before, but I want to go ahead and revisit it. I think I've only seen Mission Impossible 6 like one time. So I definitely need to have my memory refreshed. So hopefully I'll do that and finally get a chance to see Mission Impossible in theaters before it drops. But yeah, a lot of movies coming out, guys. If you've seen any great movies lately, let us know some of your thoughts about them in the comment section box below. I do want to give some shout outs here to some people. We got Enrique. What's up, Enrique? Good to see you. He says, hey, it's Power Month and National Power Rangers Day is almost here, right before Cosmic Fury hits next Netflix this fall. And I heard that Hasbro's E1 is buying Lionsgate with an update on the reboot. Well, I think it's Lionsgate that's I think it's Lionsgate that just bought E1. It says with an update on the reboot. I personally have not heard an update on the reboot. If I'm not mistaken, I think Hasbro still owns the rights to Power Rangers. I don't think Entertainment One owns the rights. So I don't know, Stuart. Am I lost here? Am I confused? I don't think Lionsgate has acquired the rights to Power Rangers to do another movie or anything like that. Am I wrong in that regards?
No, you're absolutely correct. Hasbro owns Power Rangers. They were just distributing the rights for the shows to E1, but like it's still owned by Hasbro. Same with like back when Lionsgate would distribute the DVDs and everything before Neo Saban bought the rights back. Or before it was the Neo Saban era, it was like Lionsgate never owned Power Rangers, but they had the distribution rights for the DVDs and everything.
I do wonder if anything did change when it comes to the distribution for the movie rights. I don't think that they've changed hands back to Lionsgate, but maybe I'm tripping. Look, if you guys know something I don't, or if you've read an article or something like that, please send us the link so we can go ahead and dive into that. If anything, maybe put it in live viewer questions later on today with the link. And we'll do some reading in regards to it and break that down. But I'm not familiar with it. I just know that Lionsgate has picked up E1. Who else we got right now? Marcelino. One thing I recently learned is that the Meg series is actually based on a book series that's still ongoing. I did not know that.
Neither did I.
The director said that they took elements from each of the book and told their own story. Oh, that's kind of cool, Marcelino. Thanks for letting me know that. I did not know that. I thought that was an original movie. But that's kind of cool. What's up, Blossom?
I almost feel like nowadays we got to like kind of separate based on and adaptations because, like, for example, I would consider Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter to be like adaptations, but like, yeah, there are some books that are so different from the movie where it's like you can only say loosely based on to an extent. I wonder if the Meg is like one of those.
Yeah, you might be right. Datula's in the house. What's up, Datula? She also says, I acknowledge you, Adam Perez, baby, as the predictions champion. That's 2 times now that you've won. Congrats. See you at Payback. Maybe you'll get your payback, Datula. So yeah, I guess I won predictions yesterday for SummerSlam. I definitely finished SummerSlam last night. Hopefully Datula will be able to get us a review for the channel. Maybe something I'll go ahead and put up later on today for you guys. But yeah, I don't know what the score was, so I'll figure that out. And maybe Datula can break it down a little bit more in the review for you guys. But let me know what you guys thought about SummerSlam in the live chat if you got the opportunity to see it. And if not, we'll definitely talk about it more during the SummerSlam review video. We got Ram Jam in the house. What's going on, man? Good to see you in here also. And Marcelino lastly says, I've only seen Fallout and Rogue Nation, but I feel like I'm caught up on the Mission Impossible films. I will say, listen, Dead Reckoning, I do believe has a familiar face from the very first Mission Impossible movie that's going to be in there also. So you might want to go back and check out the first Mission Impossible if you haven't done so. I almost wanted to say just skip Mission Impossible 2. I didn't really care for Mission Impossible 2 besides the action sequences, but I loved 1, loved 3, and I think they just continue to get better from there. But yeah, there's just some suggestions, Marcelino. But look, guys, if you're in the live chat, do us a big favor, hit that like button. It definitely does go a long way. If you want to support the channel monetarily, feel free to go ahead and submit any super chats, any super stickers you certainly want to. If you submit over a super chat, we'll definitely stop what we're doing. We'll get directly to your comment, bring you right up and answer your question or highlight your comment live on air. All your support definitely does go to building this channel. As you can see, we've got ourselves in a rebranding mode. So whatever you donate to the channel will certainly go towards that. And look, if you can't support us monetarily, that's certainly more than fine. If you want to help out free, subscribe to the channel, share these videos, tell your friends about us, like these particular videos. It definitely does go a long way, guys. All right. Let me see. Dacia says, do you still have the picture I sent on Monday? It goes with my question. I'm not quite sure, but when I get to your question, Datila, I will definitely look for it. But let's go ahead and start getting into some honorable mentions here. Stuart, you got one you want to go ahead and bring up today?
I do indeed. So, as mentioned before, we all know that Barbenheimer has been doing crazy, and I think the big thing is that this was just lightning in a bottle because it just happened to be 2 movies that everyone wanted to see, and they just happened to come out the same day. And I think because of that, everyone just thought, hey, let's just make an event out of this. Let's just make this a double feature, and then that became a meme. It was an accident. It was lightning in a bottle. Very unlikely to happen again for a while. But Paramount thinks that they can do it. Paramount apparently thinks that they can recapture it. So I can't remember what the date's going to be. It probably says in the image I'm about to show, but they are about to try something that they are calling hashtag Saw Patrol, because we have Saw 10 and the new Paw Patrol movie coming out the same day, both being produced by Paramount. Paramount's trying to say, hey, this would make a great double feature. But what I don't think they realize is that, there's a ton of reasons why people would see Barbie and Oppenheimer. Yes, they are 2 very different movies and seemingly for 2 very different audiences. But when you kind of watch them, you can kind of see how like certain adults would enjoy both movies just as much. I cannot say the same thing for Saw or Paw Patrol. The only thing I could see is that maybe some horror fans that go to see Saw might watch Paw Patrol afterwards as a joke for the meme. But that's not gonna make up even a percentage of box office sales. I don't think the people seeing Paw Patrol and the people seeing Saw are very specific audiences, and I don't think there's going to be any crossover between the 2. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't Saw Patrol and Barbenheimer, Barbenheimer, definitely not comparable. Definitely not comparable. I definitely don't think it's gonna work the same way. There was definitely a lot of cultural influence, I think, or at least like just a lot of cultural messaging in both movies that I think really kind of helped highlight it. I don't know if we're gonna get the same type of nuance as we did for something like a Saw or Paw Patrol, though. So no, I do not think it's certainly going to happen. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Saw Patrol, holy macaroni, Manoli. Sounds creepy. Yeah, that does sound pretty creepy. For a second there, I was thinking like, are they going to make this? When you showed me the image at first, Stuart, I thought it was going to be like a cinematic universe sort of thing, like Paw Patrol and Saw. Like, there's no way. But then I get what you're getting at then. But yeah, no, I don't see it happening either, Blossom.
Yeah. Thanks for the super
thank you
chat,
for the super chat. Definitely appreciate that. That's pretty funny. Yeah, no, I don't think it's gonna happen the same way, Stuart. Let's see. And that's from Paramount, you said?
Yeah, that's from Paramount. Yeah.
Although I will say the trailer for Saw 10 or Saw X at least does look pretty good. I think it's supposed to be like a sequel to the first one, but a prequel to the second. So kind of in between both those movies. So if you're looking for like where it fits on the timeline.
That's going to be interesting. I'll say this though, I mean, just the fact that you had a trouble like saying Barbenheimer kind of shows that at least Saw Patrol has a much catchier name. So that's the one thing I will get it. Anyone can say Saw Patrol super easily.
But they need to start putting together like movie posters of the 2. Like Barbenheimer, I think took great advantage of that, and we came up with some great movie posters of Barbenheimer. So if they can do the same with Saw Patrol, I might be interested once you start putting some posters together. Let's see some other honorable mentions real quick for you guys. Spy Kids is back in the news. I know there's a group of people that love them, some Spy Kids out there, but we did get ourselves some brand new images. This is from the upcoming Netflix film Spy Kids Armageddon. I believe it was People. Yeah, People Magazine delivered a new exclusive photos for the upcoming project. I don't know the release date of this, but I'm pretty sure that there's probably there is a date announcement trailer out there. You can find on YouTube or Facebook for Spy Kids Armageddon, but I do believe it's this year. So again, if you're big fans of Spy Kids, you got ourselves a brand new film that's
Am
dropping.
I am I old, or do those kids just look really young compared to the original two from the first Spy Kids movie?
I don't remember how young the kids were originally in the first film, but I don't know, but they do look extremely young though. I mean,
Yeah.
is that little girl like 7? I mean, she looks super tiny.
Yeah. I mean, like, even like in the first one, like, I don't know. I could buy the two kids in the first one as spies, but then again, I was probably the same age as the first two kids when I saw the movie in theaters originally. But like, I'll probably give it a chance. I don't know. It's going to be, I don't know. It's a little harder for me to sell these two as spies. Not to be mean.
Yeah, I never got into Spy Kids, but that's not a knock on anybody that enjoyed it. I know it definitely had its fans for sure. Um, Stuart, you work in the movie theaters. Have you had the
I do.
opportunity to see the horror film Talk to Me?
Not yet. I have so like at my theater, of course, I have to run food into the theater to different guests every now and then. So I have seen a couple of moments in it, and it looks really, really creepy. I've actually walked in trying not to look at the screen because I don't want any spoilers, but I've seen like audience reactions, and like I have seen people like covering their mouths and like just looking at the screen in shock. So I'm like, ooh, I gotta see this. But the only thing I know about it is that if I was any of the main characters, I would have been totally fine because I wouldn't have been like, currently I don't believe in the supernatural. I say currently because I feel like that could change over time. But if I saw anything that the kids saw in that, I would immediately be like, nope, I'm out of here. Clearly everything I know about the world is wrong, and I do not want to be involved in anything that is going on here.
I will say Talk to Me is definitely on the list. I suggested this to me and my girlfriend last week. I've been hearing nothing but praise for this movie. So if you guys are looking for another really great horror film, this might be the next one to go ahead and check out. And I honestly think horror films have been on a roll, if you ask me, of just really great movies on a low budget, just making names for themselves. And this should not come as a surprise to us. If you look at the studio at the bottom of this poster, A24. They've been killing it when it comes to a lot of their movies lately, no pun intended. But when it comes to Talk to Me, apparently a prequel has already been shot. According to the Hollywood Reporter, it says the twin Australian brothers, from hijinks on YouTube to a highbrow slate of 24, Danny and Michael Philippou's origin story is about as 2023 as it gets. It does say that they plan on doing another movie. It says eventually the brothers were inspired to do a short film about possession as a means to get high, and off of that, Talk to Me was born. It says, having worked on local Australian movie sets such as the Babadook, the twins made use of their connections at Causeway Film and approached founders. The producers were immediately taken with Talk to Me and initially guided the brothers to the American studio system. They gave us some notes that weren't necessarily bad notes at all, but it was veering in that direction that we weren't connecting with a little bit, is what one of the brothers said. The way we'd written it was not typical. We weren't finding out the origins completely and explaining where it came from on screen and talking to the experts. So we just wanted to have a complete creative control and not have to change the script too much. We also wanted to have final say on casting and final cuts as well. So it looks like the brothers, for the most part, really wanted to have as much control over this movie as they could. And I guess considering where they came from and where they started, that's pretty good, honestly. But it seems as though it says, oh, they also did a recent interview, but apparently the prequel is already shot. So we certainly could be getting the next movie relatively soon, as that continues to impress moviegoers. But definitely check it out if you haven't done so. We
This
also
is
oh,
this
go
is
ahead.
very similar to two movies that came out last year because it did the exact same thing. Did you ever watch either X or Pearl?
I watched X. Absolutely loved it. Haven't had the opportunity to tackle Pearl yet, but I think that's also another A24 production, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was just so interesting because they were shot like at the same time pretty much. So right when X ends, you get like a trailer for Pearl, which came out like later that
Mm.
same exact year. So it sounds like they're doing something kind of similar with that.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. And look, and these movies are made for such a cheap budget that the idea of maybe shooting them back to back might even make it cheaper to do both films together. You know what I mean? So that's actually probably not a bad idea. So yeah, guys, if you haven't had the opportunity to check out X or Pearl, I believe X starred Jenna Ortega, who I'm a huge fan of, and I think Mia Goth in the Pearl movie. I think she's going to be in the upcoming Blade film as well. Definitely check those out if you're big fans of A24. And of course, talk to me if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out in theaters. Next honorable mention, Jonathan Majors is back in the news. Apparently, according to Variety, his assault trial has been delayed. Variety report is letting us know that he returned to court on Thursday for what was supposed to be the start of the trial, but the prosecution said it was not ready, but still obtaining discovery. Majors was arrested back in March of 25th. It does say that the defense lawyer alleged that the delay is because the prosecutors weren't timely in turning over evidence. So a new trial date is set for September 6th. So September 6th, Jonathan Majors' trial now begins. You know, it is a little bit, to me, I do find it a little bit odd that for somebody that's bringing the charges, that the prosecutors have not are not ready. I would assume that they would have all their ducks in a row. I do remember an article a few months back that had like more people were coming forward, more alleged victims. So I don't know if it's the case that they needed to get testimony from them that's slowing them down. I feel like this trial has kind of been all over the place. Unless they're fishing for something and they haven't quite been able to get exactly what they need to like beyond a reasonable doubt sort of thing. And so maybe they needed this delay, or like the defense said, it took them forever to even give the defense the material and things like that. So now the defense has got to, I'm assuming, go over all the evidence that they've gotten and maybe put together some sort of case to prove Jonathan Majors' innocence. So it has been delayed. Prosecution has delayed it by being untimely here with the evidence. And again, the new date has been set for September 6th. But I'm no lawyer, Stuart. So yeah.
I'm glad this didn't go where I thought it was because I saw like a article, but it was from one of those websites that I never go to because I know for a fact they're full of crap most of the time. But it was like the headline was Jonathan Majors flees country, and I didn't bother like looking at it. So now
Yeah.
hearing this, I'm like, okay, yeah, so they were full of shit. That's good to know.
Yeah, no, they were
Yeah.
definitely full of shit. No, he showed up to a trial and everything, but they pushed it back to September 6th. And then last but not least, Stuart, we did get ourselves a brand new trailer this week, Loki Season 2. Now, look, I know you had the opportunity to check out Secret Invasion, if I'm not mistaken. What's your level of excitement going into the next MCU series here, set to drop October 6th?
I really enjoyed Loki season 1. So for this one in particular, yeah, I definitely have some pretty high hopes for. I will say that I was definitely one of the people who were kind of disappointed overall by Secret Invasion. Just found it very, very underwhelming, if I'm being honest. But given how much I really did like Loki season 1, I thought it was a very well-paced show. I think my only complaint about it is kind of the same complaint that I give to a lot of other Marvel Disney shows, which is that it easily could have been a movie. And I feel the same. It's probably going to be the same way with season 2. So that complaint aside, I'm looking
Well,
forward to it.
For Loki,
Yeah.
I get you. And now I think about like Secret Invasion. I almost think Secret Invasion could have been a movie
Oh, definitely could have.
as well. but you had the opportunity to check out the trailer. Now, I've kind of given my brief review about the trailer in its own individual video, which went ahead and posted up on our YouTube page if you haven't had the opportunity. But I'm assuming you checked out the trailer, Stuart. What'd you think of the trailer at least?
I like it. Man, I'm trying to kind of remember what the trailer was, if I'm being honest, but I
Oh,
do
no, you're good.
remember the scenes that we saw looked pretty look really entertaining. Oh yeah, I do love that we get the scene where his helmet is cracked, they fix it with tape. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And yes, I love that we got him back. It's really cool because we got to see him come back in the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was his first role since like early 2000s. So to see him now not only back in action in the world of acting, but now in a Marvel show, really exciting. I'm hoping he's not just here for a one-off appearance. I'm hoping he has like kind of a bigger role, but yeah, that's really exciting.
I feel like from some of the images in the trailers, I have seen him um working alongside like Sylvie, or at least working alongside Loki, along with Mobius and things like that. I think I've seen him briefly, so I'm hoping that he sticks around at least as part of the TVA for a little while and has a pretty significant role. We did get to see a little bit of Sylvie still doing some time jumping. I do wonder if she's out here trying to hunt down or kill possibly other Kang variants. Maybe she's a little bit on a Kang killing spree right now, after the first one, at the end of season one. But if anything, I'm really ready for the Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston chemistry on screen together. I think that was one of the really great strong points about season one, was seeing those two together. So I'm really excited to kind of see what they get into this time around. And honestly, I think one of the other things that really jumped out at me about the trailer is the, I guess, lack of Jonathan Majors that they showed in that trailer. I don't think it's unexpected. But it does make me wonder how big of a role he has in this season. And if they're just kind of playing it safe still right now.
I think it's going to be bigger than what they're letting on. And I think it's only because they don't want to spoil like what kind of variants we're going to be getting into with his character. I think they kind of want to let the show surprise us with that. I really hope that that's not the only variant of him that we get in this show. I hope we
In this
get
one.
more.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if how much he's actually utilized in this series for sure. But again, October 6th is the date. And I think for me, I was a really big fan of the first season. So yeah, I'm down for seeing what they do with season two. Visually, it looks great. It looks like their movie budget that they have behind this series. I can definitely tell where it went, just especially from just set design pieces alone. It looks pretty good.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your levels of enthusiasm for Loki season two. Um, what's up, Nathan? We got Nathan in the house today. Appreciate you coming through. He says, I think Marvel heard me. You have to have Loki doing more than his abilities and magic. So I liked what I see in that trailer. Yeah, absolutely. There's also a really cool shot of him and Sylvie using their powers together and like launching some sort of green magical spell at a bunch of people. I thought it was a pretty cool looking shot. All right, Stuart, I think with that out of the way, I think that'll do it for our honorable mentions. You ready to go ahead and tackle these main topics with me, man?
Definitely.
Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to start off with some Marvel talk for you guys today. As you see at the top of our thumbnail, we've got some interesting news in the world of Fantastic Four with some possible casting announced. We've been trying to do our best to kind of keep you up to date in regards to big names that have been attached to this particular project. Over the past couple of weeks, I think we talked a little bit about the idea of Adam Driver, who was offered the role of Reed Richards, sort of leaving, I don't want to say leaving those negotiations, but deciding to drop his connection to Reed Richards. I think he wasn't necessarily that pleased with the script, or I think he said he couldn't connect with the character very well. And so I think they might have even done some rewrites to the Fantastic Four script way back in the day. But if anything, I don't believe Adam Driver is still attached right now. When it comes to Sue Storm, though, while we have seen a lot of actors' names kind of come and go. One name that has continued to pop up over the past several months has been, in fact, Vanessa Kirby. I think over the past couple of weeks ago, we did go ahead and highlight the idea that Vanessa Kirby was offered the role of Sue Storm, but wasn't quite sure whether or not she accepted it. But the role was hers, certainly, for the taking. Well, we have ourselves a little bit of a new update here coming from the quite reliable Jeff Snyder once again, as he feels pretty confident that they have in fact at least landed their Sue and Johnny Storm. So we're talking Invisible Woman and the Human Torch. And according to Jeff Snyder, he believes Sue Storm will in fact be Vanessa Kirby, and Johnny Storm being, and this is a new name that just kind of popped up here, Joseph Quinn, most notably from his time in Stranger Things. And Joseph Quinn has been pretty hot these days when it comes to his name recognition, his name out there ever since his time on Stranger Things. But, don't take my word for it. Let's go ahead and dive right into this article together. This actually comes to us from Empire Magazine. That has some details for us, guys. So let's go ahead and dive into this real quick. This comes to us from Empire. So it says Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn eyed as Fantastic Four's Sue and Johnny Storm. It says ever since it was first confirmed back in 2019 that Kevin Feige and his Marvel Studio team would finally be bringing the company's first family, the Fantastic Four, into the MCU, the interwebs have been ablaze with a mixture of guesses, fan casting, and reporting on potential negotiations with actors. It would appear we are getting closer to actual hires. It says the podcast, The Hot Mic, with co-host Jeff Snyder, are reporting that Vanessa Kirby, as seen here in this photo, along with Stranger Things Joseph Quinn, are the current top choices to play Sue and Johnny Storm, though we'll stress this still lives within a rumor sphere. It says nothing naturally has been announced by Marvel as of yet, so we'll wait and see if this becomes official or joins the ever-growing pile of reports that turns out to not be current. Snyder even corrected himself mid-show when he actually announced Jack Quaid as Johnny Storm, but he did go ahead and quickly fact-check himself and said it was Joseph Quinn that was in fact going to be Johnny Storm. So, according to Jeff Snyder, this could potentially be our Sue Storm and Johnny Storm. It says we could see both choices working, though it remains to be seen if they pan out. So far, the likes of Adam Driver and Matt Smith as those who didn't take the role of the leader, Reed Richards, while Snyder mentions that Ben Grimm has been cast, just not the actor's name. So we're still waiting on that as of right now. But man, big things are happening here, Stuart. I feel like we're getting some momentum. I think just because of the strikes that are happening right now, Marvel clearly can't comment on a lot of this stuff, nor can the actors themselves. But it looks like we're getting there. There's a part to me that because it's coming from Jeff Snyder, I do want to take this and more than certainly a grain of salt, especially with Vanessa Kirby's name constantly being out there over the past several months. I definitely believe the Vanessa Kirby thing. Joseph Quinn, I definitely did not expect his name to pop up. Now that it has popped up, I'm kind of digging it. But let me ask you, Stu, how on the nose do you think this is? And how do you feel about this potential casting if it turns to be true?
Wow, you literally froze right when you finished your sentence, which is probably good. So my overall thoughts. Well, I love Joseph Quinn in Stranger Things season 4, and I think he is kind of a perfect casting choice when it comes to Johnny Storm. Not someone I would have thought of, but now that his name has come up as Johnny Storm, I can totally see it. When it comes to what's her face?
Vanessa Kirby?
Yeah. I looked through her IMDb page. I don't think I've seen, with the exception of like the most recent Mission Impossible movie where I've seen bits and pieces of her in it. I haven't seen much of Vanessa Kirby, but she looks the role, so I will definitely give her that. Yeah, so I'm sure like if they saw her in one of those movies, they probably know what they're doing with casting her. My biggest concern was definitely when it came to who turned down the script. So Adam Driver turning it down kind of makes sense. I can see him just like not fitting, not feeling like right for the character, or just not connecting with the character the way he would need to in order to pull it off. Totally buy that. Totally makes sense. Matt Smith turning it down, though. What scares me about that is that, one, he would have been perfect for the role. Two, what was the script for Fantastic Four so bad that he said no to this, but yes to Morbius? That's what kind of terrifies me about that. He said yes to Morbius, So is this a really bad script, or is he just, maybe it was from Morbius? He went, I'm not making the same mistake twice, so I don't want to do any more comic book movies. Maybe that's the reason. But part of me is worried that it was because the script was that bad. So I don't know.
I mean, look, when it comes to Fantastic Four movies, I can definitely understand the trepidation of, is this movie going to be any good? Oh my God. I have no idea either. But, you might be onto something. The fact that both of them turn the role of Reed Richards down, it does make me curious as to like, what is Reed Richards' role in the MCU in all of this? I've heard some people suggest the idea, like, does that automatically mean that like Sue Storm is like the leader of the team, right? Like, have they changed leadership roles, sort of thing? Is that what's rubbing maybe Matt Smith and Adam Driver certainly the wrong way? I have no idea. Like, when you mentioned the idea of like why somebody like Matt Smith didn't pick up the role, yet he did it for Morbius, I definitely do think Morbius has scarred this man to the point where he's like, you know what, look, I'm kind of done with comic book movies, guys. I'm not gonna put myself out there again just to turn out to be some meme or the butt end of a joke, and it could be one of those things. He's like, look, I read the Morbius script, that sounded great, and look how that turned out. Maybe the Fantastic Four script is perfectly fine, but it definitely has left a chill in Matt Smith's bones, and he's like, you know what, yeah, I'm just not even going to tackle this anymore. But I do think that there is a level of concern when you've had two prominent actors already kind of not want to go ahead and take the part. I think it's still up in the air as to whether Adam Driver will come back to the table as Reed Richards, if there's certainly any changes that need to be made. But I am kind of curious what other options they have as Reed Richards, because I feel like maybe Adam Driver and Matt Smith were their number 1 and 2 choices. But I could certainly be wrong in that regards. As far as the siblings, the Storm siblings here, I'm actually really on board with this casting if it turns out to be true. Jason Quinn right now, his popularity is just skyrocketing. Him and the girl from Stranger Things that played the cheerleader, Christy, I believe, they were both at Fan Expo Dallas this past summer. And out of all the panels that I attended, that panel was packed. I mean, there were girls everywhere just wanting to scream this man's name, that were just giggling every time he talked, laughing at every little thing that he wind up saying. I mean, for me, I think what I found fascinating is just seeing him in public, seeing him on stage. He feels very like introverted. He feels almost like a little shy to be as outspoken or, so to kind of see his character on Stranger Things and then see him, I'm like, man, this almost feels like the complete opposite guy. It almost felt like you had to like pull answers out of him because he just didn't answer things like in full depth, or like he almost, I don't want to say nervous or shy, but they definitely felt like an introvertedness about him. So the idea of him being like a Johnny Storm really fascinates me because it doesn't feel like that's who he is as a person. And granted, look, he's an actor, right? So he's got to be able to put on these performances just to see who he is as a person and then to see what he's capable of becoming from something like Stranger Things. I'm like, man, I think this dude is super talented. And so I do think that they have something here. I think they have themselves a new heartthrob that people will love, especially when it comes to Johnny Storm. He's a handsome dude that could definitely pull the charm and the charisma for sure. And I would love to see him working alongside somebody opposite like Vanessa Kirby. So I think they've got two great, strong actors in here. And yeah, sign me up if this turns out to be true. It is, again, this news and information is coming to us from Jeff Snyder himself, but and no confirmed announcement from Marvel, and I'm not expecting there to certainly be. But if it's coming from Jeff Snyder, I'm kind of liking the sounds of what we have here. So yeah, maybe we're onto something here. I will be interested to see who they get for the Thing next, though. What are your thoughts, though, Stuart?
Yeah, for the Thing, man, there are a lot of people that can really pull it off. That I think could do a really good job of. I'm just mostly curious on if Marvel is going to have like two different actors playing the Thing, like you have you know, the Thing before he turns into him, and then if they have him like voiced by someone completely different than the actor playing before him, or if they're going to have one actor do both. The one thing I wish Marvel would do, but I know for a fact that they're not going to do, I really wish they would just make a practical costume for the Thing, just like they did in the 2004 movie, because
Yeah.
I know people love the shit on that movie, and it's totally understandable because it's not the best superhero movie out there. But that costume was so good.
Yeah, that was really
So
good.
yeah, so I wish Marvel would do that. But I am pretty sure they're not going to, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
But
don't think so either, but I think it would be pretty neat, or at least a mixture of the two would be cool.
yeah, that too. Like if they wanted to, you know, for some of the action scenes that, you know, for things that you couldn't have them do, like in live action CG those, but then like for the scenes where it's just dialogue, you know, use a costume. But yeah, going back on what you said about the other actor for Reed Richards, or not Reed Richards, sorry, Johnny Storm, the potential actor for Johnny Storm, that kind of shows how much of a talented actor he must be, because I never would have gotten that vibe from him from watching him
Yeah.
in Stranger Things season 4. I would have assumed that they hired him because of his personality, you know, because it matched the role. But yeah, hearing that he's actually kind of introverted in real life,
Or at
or
least,
came off that way, you know.
yeah, at least it came across that way. Yeah, him and the girl that played Christy on stage together was just, and almost, they definitely felt almost like two high schoolers. And I was just like, are they, not that they're a stage fright, but yeah, there definitely was like like an uncomfortable being in front of all these people, you know, and then all these people putting praise on them, sort of thing. They're like, I don't really know how to handle this type of thing. So, you know, when Nathan says something like, you know, go with lesser known actors so Marvel doesn't have to pay them so much, maybe they can have more appearances going forward. I do think that's a Joseph Quinn in
Mhm.
regards to lesser known actors, because outside of his time in Stranger Things, I don't really know where else I've seen him in before then. So this might be, you know, Stranger Things might be his first really big opportunity. But if you guys have seen Joseph Quinn anywhere else prior to Stranger Things, please let me know in the comment section box below. The only thing I will say is I hope that MCU in this movie at some point does have some random extra or somebody rocking a Hellfire Club shirt for Stranger Things. I definitely think that'd be pretty awesome.
Yes. Also, you have now been frozen again.
No, am I
Like
frozen
it's
still?
funny. I can hear you, but you sound very like
Gargled like
what's the
I'm
term?
underwater.
Yeah, or yeah, like there's just this echo, like this like wiry echo.
I wonder if my like mic is like going in and out too. My audio, yeah, my audio still has the same microphone. I apologize. Am I still frozen?
Okay, now you're completely frozen. Oh wait, I
No.
can hear you again. Hang on, kind of. I don't know. It keeps going in and out, so I feel like every time I say I can see you again, I just jinx it.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's all
Luckily, I
right.
can hear you though.
But I'm still frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, but I can hear you.
Am I still frozen?
Now you're not even on screen. Oh, there you are.
Frozen still though?
Yeah, frozen again.
Son of a bitch. All right. Well, don't know what to do about it anymore, man. I've tried. I've tried. Guys, I've tried. Here, I'm gonna try and take this.
But yeah.
Are we back? Am I back?
Your voice is perfect, but now you're still not moving. Oh wait, nope, starting to move. Oh yeah. Damn it.
Damn you, internet. I don't know what's going on today. Like, literally, I got nothing playing. Like, I don't have anything using the Wi-Fi today except for this. So I
Okay,
have no
cool.
idea.
You are back now.
Okay, let's see if it'll let me even transition to the next story. Where my Star Wars heads at? Because we're about to get into some Ahsoka talk for you guys today. Entertainment Weekly went ahead and dropped a huge preview for us as we're literally just weeks away from the Ahsoka series setting to go ahead and drop on Disney Plus. And Stuart, I honestly cannot wait for this show. I continue to see trailers, TV spots, new exclusive photos that we're going to share with you guys today from Entertainment Weekly. But we're about to get into our Star Wars bag, Stuart. So let's talk a little Ahsoka today, baby, because we did get ourselves some brand new images that wind up dropping online, and they look fantastic. Now, if you guys want to go ahead and read this interview and article in full, I highly recommend it. Again, this is from Entertainment Weekly. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this image for us here, or this website, I should say, because this is a pretty long article as they really dive into the upcoming Ahsoka series and really interview just a lot of the cast members as well. So I'm not going to go through all of it with you guys today, but I do want to go ahead and cherry pick some things that I found pretty fascinating about it. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. Let's see here. So it says, speaking to Dawson about Ahsoka is a bit like talking to a human Wikipedia article come to life. She references Ahsoka's journey in specific Clone Wars episodes or one-off appearances in the animated anthology Tales of the Jedi. She also speaks of Ashley Eckstein's voice performance with reverence, and one of Dawson's favorite days on set was when Eckstein came to visit, gleefully tromping through the mud in sparkly tennis shoes. It says, when Ahsoka begins, the now adult heroine is no longer a naive Padawan, having faced plenty of trials that would vanquish a lesser Jedi. She currently is one of the few Force users to duel both Darth Maul and Darth Vader, and one of the few to survive. It says, Dawson was particularly interested in how Rebels left the character. The animated series ending with a shot of Ahsoka in all white, returning to the physical world after navigating the ethereal force dimension known as the world between worlds. This is what Dawson winds up saying. She says, in the animation, you saw her go to the white. But what I love is the idea that there was even another level to her. Dave Filoni and I talk about Gandalf the Gray and Gandalf the White, talking about that transition and how she's someone very capable and excellent and looked up to as a leader, but she still has levels of development to go. The actress approached every new challenge with wide-eyed joy, whether it was spending hours in the makeup chair for months, or perfecting her double lightsaber fighting stance. Many of Ahsoka's gravity-defying moves were easy to execute in animation, but much trickier for an actual human to complete. And Dawson had to essentially train herself to fight ambidextrously. She still remembers the first compliment that fight choreographer Ming Kui gave her after months of training. She said, that one didn't make my eyes hurt. Even amidst all the hard work, when EW spoke to Dawson's co-stars, every one of them singled out to her seemingly boundless energy on set and her penchant for singing between takes, repeatedly describing her as a human sunshine. So that's good to know that Dawson honestly really brought the positivity to set. What do you think about her and Dave Filoni talking about Gandalf the Gray and Gandalf the White and kind of comparing that to Ahsoka's journey? I find that actually pretty badass.
I find everything about this really awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, I would have been excited to have her play Ahsoka, even if she didn't really bother doing that much like research on the character. But like, kind of the way she's talking about it here, as if she's like a really big fan of the character. Like, she not only like did her research about it, but she like embraced the research. She enjoyed it, getting to spend time with the actual voice actor that played her before. And then, yeah, like you said, like even being able to come up with really cool comparisons, like comparing Ahsoka Ahsoka's journey to that of Gandalf the Grey and Gandalf the White, like that's, to me, that's amazing because it shows how passionate she is about this role, and it shows that she's really going to be giving it her all going into the series. As for like whether or not I agree with the comparison, I think it's, I do like Lord of the Rings. I'm just like not super into it. So I'm not like as into it as like other like Lord of the Rings fans are. So the significance of Gandalf's transition to Gandalf the White from Gandalf the Gray, I I can't really say like I know for sure what the significance is, but visually I can see what she means. But like I think if I was like more like delved into like Lord of the Rings, I don't know, I could like have a better opinion of that, but it's hard for me to like kind of like say whether or not I agree with it because I'm not sure, but I do like that she's super into that comparison, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely shows me the level of commitment that she's had behind this character. And not to say that I ever doubted it, but if there was anybody that ever doubted how good, for this role, she certainly is. I think I think this article definitely highlights that she's really putting her best foot forward, clearly doing her research and her homework. And if she's having these level of conversations with Dave Filoni, there's definitely a level of understanding about this character that I think is pretty cool to kind of see come from her. It also says when the series begins, Ahsoka is lonely. It says she's crossed paths with other Force users like Grogu and Luke Skywalker, but Dawson describes her as a lone wolf, a Ronin-like wanderer, committed to a single goal: hunting down the villain Thrawn. For clues to help her find her missing friend Ezra Bridger. It's a vow she made in the Rebel series finale, and in Ahsoka, her journey continues. Fortunately, she's not alone for long. Ahsoka soon reunites with the graffiti artist slash Mandalorian warrior Sabine. It says the Australian Bordizo, who's 28 years old, remembers auditioning for the unnamed project. And she said the friends she rehearsed with noted a distinct Han Solo vibe to the character. But after Bordizo sent in her tape, she immediately she put it out of her mind. It was until she got a call telling her that one, it was a Star Wars series, and two, that she wind up landing the role. It says Sabine is already an accomplished fighter, but Ahsoka finds her picking up Ezra's green lightsaber. I was wondering where she got the lightsaber from. It did not even connect to me that that was Ezra's. And look, I'm a big fan.
Oh,
I'm a big fan of green lightsabers all day. Probably why I'm such a big fan of Return of the Jedi. Even love seeing Anakin rock the green lightsaber at the end of Attack of the Clones. I thought that was pretty badass. So yeah, if you're a green lightsaber holder, I'm pretty fond of you. And it says Bordizo spent months training to learn to wield the blade. She says sometimes you do stunts and projects and it feels performative or more like it's for the fun of the action, which is fine. But every action scene in our show is very, very parallel to the story. Every move is thought out. So where they would comment that a certain move did or didn't feel like Sabine, everything is intentional. And I hope that that shows on screen. And that kind of reminds me of like the depths that they went to for like the prequel series, in the sense of like how much George Lucas really wanted to establish like each particular character's own fighting style or the purpose behind their fighting style and why they chose it, like it being extremely meaningful towards that. And so the fact that they're picking that up, like it doesn't feel too Sabine. I kind of dig the fact that you got somebody like Dave Filoni that's really tapping into that George Lucas isms, if you will, and bringing that sort of back when it comes to the lightsaber battles. I kind of dig that, Stuart.
something I can say about Dave Filoni for sure, just from his two fight scenes in particular from Star Wars Rebels, is that he definitely knows how to have like a fight scene that reflects a character. And actually, there's three examples I can think of from Rebels, but he knows how to do fight scenes that just like not only are entertaining but really reflect the characters. I think my two favorite examples. One definitely comes from the Darth Maul Obi-Wan fight scene, which a lot of people were trying to say was kind of disappointing.
Nah,
I
not at
loved
all.
it. It
Yeah, I
was
love it too.
it was short, but oh my god, it was amazing. And then same with the Ahsoka fight against Darth Vader. I think one thing that they did really good with that whole fight scene between the two of them is you get to the Star Wars sequel movies and how like and how like or I said sequels. I meant to say the original trilogy. My bad. The fight scenes aren't as stun wiry as they are in the prequels or in the sequels, and that's obviously because of the limitations at the time. But I like how like over time they've developed kind of in-universe reasons for why that is.
Hmm.
My favorite was with Darth Vader, how like in episode 4, his whole reason for not being like very acrobatic against Obi-Wan Kenobi is because Obi-Wan's old, and you never, when you're sword fighting, you never go faster than your opponent, because then your opponent's going to be able to catch you off guard, basically. That's how they basically find the weak spot. And so I like how that kind of gets reflected when we see Ahsoka battling Vader, because the two of them are battling like both at their absolute peak with their own like unique styles. The style that kind of Vader developed over time with his new limited body, now that he's very cybernetic, that kind of thing. So I think Dave Filoni really knows how to reflect a character's strengths and like their overall like personality, and really knows how to show that in his fight scenes.
Yeah, and I think he does a really great job of making these fights extremely important to the stories also.
Yes.
Having a perfect way for them to fit into the meaning of the story. Every swing, every movement, certainly always meaning something. And like you said, when it's, I think for me, especially the Darth Maul and the Obi-Wan matchup that we get in Rebels, it is one of those things where, yeah, a lot of us were not expecting that at all. But from a storyline standpoint, it definitely showcased to you just how much not only Obi-Wan grew, but I think maybe even seeing um how much Darth Maul maybe even stunted himself in progress over the years. Like there's a part of me that always thinks that maybe his hatred for Kenobi was, I don't want to say it was like that distraction to him from not getting to Obi-Wan level, Obi-Wan Kenobi's level. But it just definitely showed that they were just definitely on two completely different realms at that point when they finally faced off against each other. And I don't think any of us were expecting that. But I think that's just true. I think that's just very Dave Filoni staying true to the character's growth and things like that, and its importance to the story. So I think he does a great job with that. Um,
Definitely.
it also says, oh, there's another picture here of Sabine to pull up for you guys, but it also says, also joining the cast is Mary Elizabeth Winstead as General Hera Syndulla, the green-skinned Twi'lek captain who pilots the Ghost starship. Let me see if we got a new image of her. Yeah, we do. It says she's accompanied by Chopper, the Ghost loyal, but curmudgeonly. I don't even know curmudgeonly. I don't even know what word that is. Astromech droid. Um, Let's see here. It says Weinstead binged episodes of Rebels once the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey actress landed the role, and she found herself drawn to Hera's resilience. What I love about her is that she's such a strong leader and fighter, and she's also so maternal and nurturing. We don't often see that depicted on screen. We see army generals being these very masculine, hard figures. Hera has that, but she also has this softness about her. She really wants her crew to be loved and looked after. And at the same time, she's pushing them to be better. Weinstead is no stranger to the Star Wars galaxy. Her husband is Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself. Before she was cast, Weinstead would visit him on the set of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show as well. It says today the McGregor Weinstead house is filled with Star Wars merch. She says in terms of our son's favorite toys, he's got his Grogu, he's got Lola from the Obi-Wan series, and then there's a lot of dadas around from different eras of Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, she's definitely playing that motherly role for sure. And Stuart, I don't know if this is a comparison, but I don't know, when they mentioned her and her characteristics, I don't know why I went and thought of Ripley from Aliens movie. I think because we were just talking about that the other week, right?
Yeah,
About
like
the
a couple
idea,
weeks ago. Yeah.
yeah, about the idea of a female sort of action star that is, brave, strong, badass, right? But she also does have that motherly, nurturing aspect about her. And I think that does showcase itself really well when it comes to Star Wars Rebels, just the balance, because there definitely is a sense of like she could very much be that general and that leader of the Ghost Squad, but when her fellow crew member is either down in the dumps or going through some crazy shit, she could definitely put on sort of that maternal instinct of hers, and I think that does bring a really great balance to her character.
Yeah.
I am kind of curious to see how other sides of her in this particular series. I didn't really care for the makeup work for Hera in the first trailer, but I'm hoping it's something that grows on me as we go through the remainder of that of the series, though.
I mean, looking at it in the image here, I think it looks just fine. In the trailers, I think, and it's also probably just because of like, the what she's wearing on top of her head. It,
It
it
could
did
be.
actually take a minute for me to even recognize who was playing her.
Yeah, I didn't recognize it at all, honestly, when they went ahead and first revealed it. I think there's going to be maybe one last section we'll talk about here because I do want to give some highlight to the villains. So it says Ahsoka pits its heroine against a whole host of villains. You got Diana Lee in Nasanto reprising her role from The Mandalorian as the powerful magistrate Morgan Elsbeth, who has close ties to Thrawn. It also says Morgan previously clashed with Ahsoka in the brief fight scene in The Mandalorian. But here, the 57-year-old gets to show off even more of her skills. After all, she says with a smile, she's sort of been training for it her whole life. As a young girl, her father took her and a group of martial artist students to see the original Star Wars. And when they got home from the theater, he immediately ran and bought some plastic lightsabers for training. Um,
That's
she says,
awesome.
I think that's awesome too. Yeah. She says, it says, I love the irony that he was training me for these double staff plastic lightsabers. And who knew that down the road I would actually be doing a fight scene with Rosario? Maybe the Force is really out there. Also hunting Ahsoka are the red lightsaber wielding Balin. Where's the Balin picture at? Balin right here,
Rest in
played
peace.
by played by the late Ray Stevenson for sure, and his apprentice Shin Hati, which is there another picture of her? Boom, right here. Played by the 25-year-old Ivana Sakno. She's very calculated, the Ukrainian Sakno teases of Shin, adding that Filoni encouraged her to help flesh out the character's backstory. She's impatient, but she's a seeker. She's only in the beginning of finding her own voice. The Irish Stevenson, who's playing Balin here, known for his role in Punisher, Warzone, and the Thor films, it does say that he passed unexpectedly in May after wrapping his role on Ahsoka. It says one of the things that was so overwhelming at first was the costumes are works of art and the set designs. You think, who designed this? And then you look at the set construction that is surrounding you. The technical and creative talent is quite breathtaking, and you've got to summon it up from the balls of your feet. Stand your ground and own the space. Yeah, man, it's a shame that he passed. They say Ray was so excited for this character to be released into the world. He was just an extraordinary, kind human being. I used to call him poetry in motion on the set. He really was walking poetry, and I know I'm going to be thinking about him when we're watching these episodes. Yeah, man, rest in peace to Ray Stevenson, an absolute incredible actor. But yeah, he's going to get his time to shine once again. But yeah, guys, if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, check out this Ahsoka article. I don't think you'll be displeased. There's plenty more in there to definitely sink your teeth into, man. But after going through some of this, Stuart, what's your level of anticipation, man?
Really, as much as I feel like I've been kind of let down with Obi-Wan, a show I was really looking forward to, really, really hyped about. But then we got Andor, a show that I didn't really have that much interest in, and then it ended up just really, really blowing my mind. So I'm really hoping this ends up being an Andor for me, another Andor for them. Like, I think because of who we have behind it, because we got Dave Filoni, someone who I don't think has had a single miss so far. Everything he's worked on, to me anyways, has definitely been a hit. My anticipation is really high. I'm pretty sure this is going to be another hit for, the Star Wars universe. And again, everything that they have going for it, the cast, the crew, it looks like it's just going to be an amazing, fun ride. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think this is going to be pretty massive. Honestly, I think it's gonna be pretty massive. I think because we have such a generation that came up with Clone Wars and Ahsoka's life, a lot of people out there, a new generation of fans are really surrounding Ahsoka as like their favorite Star Wars character, you know. So I do think there's going to be a massive groups of people that come out and viewership for the first 2 episodes. I think it's 2 episodes that might be dropping in August when this series is released. So I am expecting a flood of people to check this out. Whether or not it's going to be good, I have no idea. But this is what, look, Dave Filoni, this is what you have been building towards. Not even so much the idea of the upcoming movie that he's going to be doing, because I know he's been aiming to do something movie wise also, but like this is literally a culmination of Clone Wars, Rebels that you've spent years developing and getting to this particular point in time for a live action Ahsoka series. I am not expecting to be disappointed. I definitely do think he's going to bring his A game and certainly telling this. And I think, too, the fact that he's got Thrawn in this series and understands like the connective tissues to making this sort of like his heir to the Empire, if you will, a little bit. I am really curious to see what he does with this series, but it looks great. Rosario looks like she's a fantastic cast for this. And the fact that we're getting our Rebels crew in live action, I'm ready for it already, Dave. So yeah, man, let's get this show on the road. But guys, let me know your thoughts. Ahsoka, what's your level of anticipation for it? How do you like some of these exclusive images they released for you this week? We'll definitely keep you posted going forward, guys. But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below.
It's funny. So in the same way that Picard season 3 feels like Next Generation season 8 to me, this kind of feels like Star Wars Rebels season 5 to me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It is one of those things I'm like, man, I gotta do my homework real quick. I need to go ahead and start binging these episodes again to get ready for this. But yeah, guys, let us know when do you start your Rebels and Clone Wars binge? Let me know, and maybe I'll start with you guys.
I don't know if I want to re-binge the entire series, but I actually probably will go back and watch some of my favorite, like, kind of Ahsoka-centered episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah, I do wonder if I'm sure there's probably like I went and me and my girlfriend did a Darth Maul timeline rewatch. And
Oh, nice.
so somebody had put together a timeline of like all the Darth Maul moments and episodes that he was in so you can see his path. I wonder if they have the same thing with Ahsoka. Like just Ahsoka centric episodes or where she's highlighted to follow her main story. Because I would love to follow that.
For the Clone Wars, were any of the episodes like out of order? Because I know that like a lot of times with Clone Wars, some episodes took place before other episodes. I'm curious if that happened with Darth Maul's storyline.
I don't remember if they were out of order. Um, I don't think so. I think his was pretty linear.
Okay.
I think it's just total pretty linear. Um, all right, guys. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on the Ahsoka series in the comment section box below. And from that, Stuart, we will go ahead and move over into our DC talk for the day because we had ourselves a huge announcement this week, and we did go ahead and do our own individual video for it as well. I had to go ahead and talk about it earlier in the week, but Gal Gadot is back in the news this week. She's been given some interviews that might give us a little bit more insight in regards to her overall involvement with the upcoming James Gunn DCU. Now, if you guys recall, late last year, it was announced that Patty Jenkins was not going to be directing Wonder Woman 3, that they had not picked up her script, I believe, and said that, hey, look, we're going to be going in our own direction. And when they announced this back in maybe November or December last year, a lot of people were under the assumption, hey, if Patty Jenkins isn't coming back, if they're not utilizing her script, that they may in fact be not even having Gal Gadot back, right? I think a lot of us certainly assume that with the no longer returning Henry Cavill. I think we were under the assumption, hey, we may see Ben Affleck one more time in The Flash, but that's really about it. And then James Gunn would then just sort of either recast everybody or we would have a fresh start when it comes to the DCU. So a lot of us were under the impression who knows what's going to happen with Gal Gadot. But this week, ladies and gentlemen, Gal Gadot came out and said something rather interesting. According to her, she has been in talks with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it sounds like they are, in fact, developing a new Wonder Woman movie. Let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart. I found this really interesting. This actually comes to us as an exclusive from comicbook.com. Gal Gadot developing Wonder Woman 3 with James Gunn and Peter Safran. Now, this interview that was done before the strike for SAG, if I'm not mistaken. This was during Gal Gadot's she's on a press tour, doing press junkets for her upcoming movie Heart of Soul. And so this interview was actually done back in June, but they went ahead and released this information this past week. So let's go ahead and dive into what was said here. It says, speaking to comicbook.com's Chris Killian for her new Netflix movie, Heart of Stone, before the SAG strike, Gadot said, as she understands it, she will be developing Wonder Woman 3 together with James Gunn. This is her quote. She says, I love portraying Wonder Woman. It's so close and dear to my heart. From what I've heard from James and from Peter is that we're going to develop a Wonder Woman 3 together. She also does go on and mention the idea that I think she talked a little bit about the casting for a Superman Legacy as well, and had some insight for them also. But she very much is hinting at the idea that there is, in fact, a Wonder Woman 3 in development. Now, look, I've had some people push back against this, saying, look, we'll take this as a grain of salt sort of thing. This is just a rumor right now. For me, Stuart, when it comes to if there's any place like I want to get my information or source of information from, it's either the person writing or directing this film or the actor starring in it. And I'm sure we've had moments when we've had actors say some things maybe prematurely, but the fact that literally Wonder Woman herself is saying, hey, look, I've heard from both of these people that we're developing something together. I don't want to say this is super concrete, but this is as concrete for me and what I usually need to be like, okay, there's definitely something here. But let me just jump before I get into your thoughts on this, Stuart. I do want to showcase and highlight a second article for you guys, because heroichollywood.com also did a article on this, and they actually put a link to another interview that was done. So let me go ahead and pull this other interview that was done, because I believe it's actually in Hebrew. I don't know. She was this is from can.org.il. This had to be actually translated from Hebrew. But she's definitely doing her rounds. It says Wonder Woman is coming back. Gal Gadot in an interview developing a third film. She says after establishing her place in Hollywood and even receiving a star on world famous Sedera, Gadot launches her new film, which she produced together with her husband. In her conversation, she talked about the joint work, the situation in Israel, and also will we see her for a third time in the Wonder Woman uniform? Just before her movie, Heart of Stone, comes out on Netflix, Gadot gives hope to Wonder Woman fans and says in an interview broadcast today, and this was on Wednesday on the evening news, she says, we are developing a third movie and we will see what happens with it. Gadot sent a reassuring message amid reports in Hollywood about the freezing of the shooting of the third film. She says, no one ever talked to me about freezing. I was told I was in good hands and that I could be calm. It says, she also went on to say, we were supposed to shoot the third film now with Patty, the beloved friend and the very talented director, but it won't happen, says Gadot. So she is in fact confirming here that Patty Jenkins is not involved in it. And according to her, yeah, they are in fact developing a third movie together. Stuart, let me pick your brains in this. Is this the level of confirmation, even more confirmation that you need? Or are you still on the fence that they're developing another Wonder Woman movie?
I think at the time she did this interview, it was pretty concrete. But the one factor is that those interviews, correct me if I'm wrong here, but because they took place before the strike, I assume that also means they took place before the Flash movie. And I feel like even if James Gunn originally wanted to keep elements of the DCEU into the DC universe going forward, I think after kind of like some of the flops that they've recently had, and probably the ones they're going to continue to have with Aquaman, if like what test audiences say about the movie ends up being true, I wouldn't say I'm super confident this is going to hold up right now. I feel like right now the smarter move for James Gunn, or just for DC and Warner Brothers, would be to just do a completely fresh slate, like completely get rid of any connection there was to the DCEU moving forward. But we never know. It definitely is a possibility that she is still confirmed to do Wonder Woman 3. But yeah, right as of right now, I think it's about just as likely to happen as it isn't, if that makes sense. So I will say that, yeah, I don't think that she's lying at all. But I also do find it kind of interesting that James Gunn at the moment hasn't commented on it, which makes me think that even if it was true at the moment, there still is technically a chance that it could change over time. For me though, personally, I kind of hope it's not true. Not that I love Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Her first Wonder Woman movie was absolutely amazing to my opinion. But I just think that, if we're already recasting Batman, if we're already recasting Superman, it might just be time for a full reset for the DC universe.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean there. Look, things can definitely change in time. I still think the plan as of today, though, I personally still think that the plan is to do another Wonder Woman film. Whether or not it's going to be like the end of the trilogy, like a true continuation in Wonder Woman 3, or if it's going to be sort of a reboot, I think is certainly still up in the air. But while true, the first interview that was highlighted on comicbook.com was done back in June before the writer's strike and maybe even before the Flash movie came out. This article here that had to be translated from Hebrew, I'm assuming she's in Israel giving a press tour. This was done just here and recently in August, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It says just before her. Well, let me see. It says in a conversation, she talked about the joint situation in Israel. Says, watch the interview. This was released August 3rd. Oh, it says fans in an interview broadcast today on Wednesday on the evening news. So this looks like, now, granted, it was broadcast on Wednesday. Whether or not that means the actual interview took place on Wednesday or earlier, who knows? But I still think that's pretty recent. And so for me, I do think that there's something here for sure. I am also in agreement with you, though, Stuart, that at any point in time, things can definitely change. But if she's mentioned on several occasions, hey, they've told me I can remain calm, that we're going to be developing this movie together. It just seems to me like, hey, we have plans for you as Wonder Woman. They just don't include whatever Patty Jenkins certainly might have had in store for you. And look, I can understand also the pushback that this might get. The idea that look, if you're not bringing back Henry Cavill, if you're not bringing back Ben Affleck, this is just going to cause confusion. The DCU really does need just a hard reset at this point in time. Maybe just give us some new characters. But I do think that there is some fun to definitely be had when it comes to playing with the lore a little bit of Wonder Woman. Now, I gave one suggestion in my previous video this week, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to check it out, but I suggested the idea, like, if the Flash movie did wind up sort of changing and resetting the world sort of thing, and I think we might have brought this up on here a report before too, the idea that in DC Comics there do tend to be some characters that sort of remember past events, right? So, like, for instance, a crisis event, right? Sometimes in the comic books, when a crisis event happens and you start a brand new, there tend to be maybe a few, if maybe one or two characters that remember the world previous. You know what I mean, Stuart?
Yeah.
That was definitely one suggestion that I had. But I also got to thinking this week, if this turns out to be true, that we've got ourselves Gal Gadot returning as Wonder Woman, um, it made me think about this book. This is the George Perez run on Wonder Woman. This is the omnibus from back in the 80s, I think. My uncle just picked this up for me. But this is like right after Crisis on Infinite Earths, and this is like their rebooting of the character in
Mhm.
general. Um, I really dig what they've done with this because they really establish sort of the history of Themyscira along with the birth, if you will, of Wonder Woman. And if you remember, Stuart, James Gunn did announce a Paradise Lost series
Yes.
that one was announced, right? We didn't hear anything about a Wonder Woman or a Diana. In fact, it was announced that it was going to be like pre-Diana, like a prequel, right? Um, for those of you who don't know, the George Perez run back in the 80s, and I absolutely love this wraparound cover here. I don't know how well you can tell from it on the screen, but the very first issue is literally like the history of Themyscira, and it literally talks about the Amazonians, how they were created, the world of men, and them having to, go on wars against them and things like that. And at the end of the origin story of Themyscira, they talk about the birth of Diana, and they talk about the idea of her being sort of made out of clay and whatnot, right? For me, Stuart, I would love if the Paradise Lost movie or the Paradise Lost series was very much a retelling of the George Perez sort of first issue of Wonder Woman here, and really expanding that Paradise Lost season to be the origin story of Themyscira and maybe that of Wonder Woman. And if you are in the process of like rebirthing her, maybe creating her out of clay once again, I think there's something really fascinating of that Wonder Woman also growing up to turn out to be a Gal Gadot
Mhm.
Wonder Woman. And whether or not she holds on to the memories that came before in the previous DCU, I do think that there is something to being able to, I don't want to say recast her as Wonder Woman, but I do think that there's enough there to warrant the idea of keeping her around compared to the same choice that would come when it comes to Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck. Like, I literally think it's like almost written word for word of a way for James Gunn to certainly pull this off just from George Perez's 1980s run on Wonder Woman. But maybe I'm tripping. But I kind of dig the idea of them tapping into that as for a Paradise Lost and even a relaunching of a Wonder Woman movie.
Okay, I will admit, if this is kind of the direction they go in, if they have a plan in this area, I'd be down for it. As I just hope that if they do this though, they don't like go with the title of Wonder Woman 3, I hope they kind of
Right,
make it
right.
very clear that this is a full reboot, even though if it's the same actress, it's a reboot of the character. I remember there was a bit of confusion recently because I guess I didn't see where he said this, so I'm just quoting other people who were quoting James Gunn. So for all I know, James Gunn maybe never even said this at all. But there's even kind of confusion with Blue Beetle now because James Gunn said that Blue Beetle is going to be the first official DCU character, but Blue Beetle will not be a DCU movie.
Oh yeah. So to me it almost sounds like, hey, we're keeping the character, but maybe even his origin story you saw in this movie is not even canon to like
Yeah,
his world almost. That's what it feels
exactly.
like. Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. So yeah, look, there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to James Gunn's DCU. But I do think that there is a way that he can do this and pull this off, especially if you establish the creation of Themyscira, the Amazonians and things like that, in something like a Paradise Lost. And if you want to sort of use that as sort of an origin story for Wonder Woman, the concept and the idea of them molding her and shaping her out of clay, and like the gods sort of giving the clay life for the very first time, and we have the birth sort of Diana. For me, I think it would be really cool if like the birth of Diana as she grows up maybe maybe there's a part of her that still remembers the time that certainly came before, or who knows, maybe she doesn't. But I do think that you can kind of start from scratch with Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman once again. But we'll see. We'll see if this comes to fruition. I am in agreement with you, though, Stuart. I don't necessarily think that this is going to end up being a Wonder Woman 3 so much as it is just a reboot and a retelling of the story, if you will. So we'll see how it goes. But I definitely do believe that there's something there for sure, especially if Gal Gadot is mentioning it. But let us know your guys' thoughts. Do you think this is going to see the time of day? Do you think this movie is ever going to get greenlit? Despite what Gal Gadot is saying, do you not believe her? Do you still take this as a rumor? Because I personally think that this is pretty concrete. Depending on what we actually get out of this, we'll definitely see. But as Stuart certainly said, things can change. So let us know your thoughts about Gal Gadot returning as Wonder Woman in the comment section box below. And from one DC hero to the next, Stuart, let's talk about this because, man, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson still feeling some type of way.
Oh,
He's
boy.
still feeling some type of way about Black Adam, unfortunately. He's back in the news and saying, look, it's still a bit of a mystery. He's ready to go ahead and hire the Scooby-Doo gang to try and figure out what happened to his movie. So let's go ahead and dive into this, Stuart, because I found this pretty interesting.
Before you begin the article, I just want to say, I think what Dwayne Johnson did for the Screen Actors Guild, and same with the Writers Guild, awesome, very awesome. I'm sorry, dude, but as soon as Adam is done reading this article, the gloves are coming off. Just letting you know.
Stuart's got some big words for Dwayne Johnson. Let's go ahead and let's dive into this, man. This is from Variety. It says, Dwayne Johnson says, dropping Black Adam will always be one of the biggest mysteries. So not Stonehenge, not are UFOs real, but his biggest mystery is dropping Black Adam. It got caught in the vortex of new leadership is what he says. So let's go ahead and dive into this. He says, look, Black Adam got caught in the vortex of new leadership. Johnson said when Kevin Hart asked him how it felt for a franchise to be stopped. He says, it was so many changes in leadership. Anytime you have a company, a publicly traded company, and you have all those changes in leadership, you have people coming in who creatively and fiscally are going to make decisions that you may not agree with. He says Johnson stressed that his Black Adam franchise got caught in the web of new leadership. He also goes on to say that but he still doesn't completely understand why the character got dropped, given what he views as the film's multiple success points. That will always be one of the biggest mysteries, he said. You have the biggest opening of your career. Sure, no China, which could have been maybe 100 or 200 million more dollars overseas. You have a superhero and you want to grow out the franchise. You bring back Superman and Henry Cavill, which the world went crazy, and we created a diverse superhero portfolio where we have just men and women of color in Black Adam. It does say that Black Adam opened to a sizable 67 million at the box office and high point for Johnson's career. Far bigger than the 55 million that the Flash earned that year. However, the film's box office did not leg out, and it failed to cross $400 million worldwide. Johnson even compared the stopping of Black Adam to new ownership coming in and buying an NFL team and going, not my coach, not my quarterback. It doesn't matter how many times you won the Super Bowl or how many rings you got, you're going with somebody else. And that does tend to be pretty new, honestly. That does tend to be pretty true, honestly. When new management comes in, they like to go ahead and change things around. He says, all that I can do and all that we could do when we were making Black Adam was to put our best foot forward and surround ourselves with the best people and deliver the best movie we could. He also told Variety our audience score was in the 90s. Critics took a couple shots, but that's just the business of it. And if you want, you can go ahead and check out the movie on HBO Max, or as they call it now, Max. Stuart, I teed this up for you here, sir. You clearly have some big words for Dwayne Johnson. What's up, man? What's on your mind?
The problem was that he thought he could control the DC universe. He says he was trying to make a movie. No, he was trying to basically take over the DCEU. And he thought this movie would be enough to do so. He thought that having his name on this movie would be enough for him to basically take full control. And the thing about it, Black Adam wasn't that bad of a movie, but I don't know why he thought this was. I don't know why he thought this was going to be the biggest success. I mean, it didn't really. Every kind of interesting aspect about the movie goes unexplored. Basically, they bring up very interesting topics, very interesting ideas, and they do nothing with them pretty much. And on top of that, you have your, once again, super generic kind of super villain fight scene at the very end that just kind of people were starting to get very fatigued about. The other big thing was about when it came out. It really did come out at kind of, I know people are trying to say superhero fatigue isn't a thing. It kind of is becoming a thing. And the reason it's becoming a thing is because of the superhero formula that, you know, a lot of people say is just the Marvel formula. The truth is it's just the hero's journey formula.
Mm,
And it's been done in such a very specific way from not just Marvel. Marvel is not the only one guilty of this, but DC and then other just action movies as well. I think because like people, audiences are now starting to notice how familiar this is all starting to become, you know, and Black Adam didn't do anything new with that formula. No one really cared. The other really big thing that kind of held this movie back, I think, is the whole thing where he just really wanted to distance himself from Shazam, which made zero sense to me. You know, I get why he probably didn't want to be in, why he wanted to at least get his own movie and not be in the first Shazam movie. But the fact that like even within his own movie, they still use the same wizard, but there's zero reference to Shazam. There's reference literally to every other hero in the DC universe that's been established. Like you get a poster of Superman, someone mentions Batman. I think Wonder Woman's name even gets brought up. No Shazam throughout the entire thing. So him trying to distance himself from Shazam was so petty, to my opinion. And it just kind of feels like it comes down to, him thinking that this character that he took over could be the new face of DC. I think that's what it comes down to, is that he wasn't just trying to make a movie like he claims in the article. He was trying to make himself the face of the DC universe. And he was trying to do this right when there was new management coming in. He took a huge gamble, spent so much money thinking that if he could make an amazing movie that broke billions of dollars, that maybe he would become the new head of DC, or maybe not head, but like at least he'd have a huge voice in the DC universe. And this gamble unfortunately failed for him, and this is why I can easily see why James Gunn would want to distance that movie from his new universe going forward. Just this movie was just filled with so many terrible business decisions. If he had just
mm.
gone out of his way to make a movie, it would have been fine, but that's not what he was trying to do with this. So I think like him trying to say he was just trying to make a good movie is just he's completely full of shit when he says that.
So it's almost like he tried to pull a Warner Brothers Discovery coup, is what you're saying.
Kind of, yeah, honestly. And it didn't work. And I think the biggest thing is that this movie, any hope there kind of was of James Gunn maybe deciding to continue the DCEU rather than rebooting everything. I think this movie is kind of like the biggest reason why that didn't happen, honestly. I think he might be frozen. Are you frozen? It looks like you are. So I'm just gonna keep talking until you come back. I'll let you know the moment that I see you, or hear you saying something. But yeah, Dwayne Johnson, you seem like a really good person, outside of the business aspect of, some of your decision making. But yeah, I think this was just a really big mistake on your part, trying to basically kind of take over something rather than just being a part of it. And then just maybe learning the business of the DC universe going forward before fully taking over was also something that you could have tried, but nah. But yeah, I think, overall, I think it's a little bit of a surprise that this movie wasn't like a success, even like a small success, but it's not a big surprise that it wasn't like, the big, DC movie like he was really hoping it was going to be. And it was surprising too, because I was to an extent kind of rooting for the movie. I did think that the trailer looked really good. But that was about it. Had a good trailer. And then I mean the movie itself was like, okay. And now I'm just pretty much talking out of my ass because I don't know what else to say other than yeah, this it's not really the surprise that Dwayne Johnson is claiming that it is. I am very curious why, like the because to me it all just kind of comes off as him being very petty. But I am very curious as to why it is that he was so insistent on not being connected to Shazam. Oh, and it looks like Adam is back. Maybe are you back? Oh, you're back! Yay! And you're not frozen.
I hope not. I hope not. Sorry about that, guys. I really don't know what's going on with my internet today. I feel like we haven't had these problems in quite some time. But to give my thoughts on it, because there's a lot that I definitely agree with you, Stuart, for sure. It is funny to me that it's like, okay, I love the monologue that you give there, Dwayne, but I do think that you left out the part where you literally tried to go around executives' backs to get things done, okay, and you really just hamstrung everybody in regards to making this stuff happen that was really in like nobody's overall big plans. Like I think it was like was it Pam DeLuca or something, or Pam, I can't remember the people that were in charge, but the fact that nobody really was looking to try and get Henry Cavill back, but then you shoehorned him in and they were like, yeah, well, we could bring him back without any like contract signed or anything like that, like just having him shoot the Henry Cavill in this movie and things like that. It's a lot that he certainly left out of the story. And if anything, look, I will agree with you, Stuart. Like, I enjoyed Black Adam for what it certainly was, right? Like, I think you and I didn't go into Black Adam expecting it to be a masterpiece because it was a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie. I think we knew what we were going to get when we got into Black Adam. Doesn't mean that it certainly didn't disappoint some people because, again, it did feel almost like a copy and paste kind of origin story. Like maybe this is a comic book story that would have done great maybe like 10, 15 years ago when this movie was originally announced, Rock. But the fact that you took so much time to make this movie, it just felt like you were kind of still stuck in that trap of very early comic book movie kind of concepts. And so I do think that they did some really great things of establishing, because I think he's right in the sense of we did establish some great characters, some great diversity, amazing action, which look, I appreciate whenever it comes to a Rock movie. That's exactly what I expected. But it definitely had people wanting more and having an appetite for more that this movie just did not necessarily fulfill. So while I personally enjoyed it for what it was, I'm definitely not going to act like this was one of the greatest DC movies of all time for sure. And I understand people's complaints as to why they definitely did not like this movie. In hindsight, Stuart, the fact that we look back at this movie and it almost made $400 million at the box office, it is kind of eye-opening in the sense that this movie probably could have done a little bit better had it actually gone out to international box offices. So this is a movie that, despite not even cracking 400, maybe could have come in at 500, maybe $550 million. And personally, I don't think that's too bad for a Black Adam movie that nobody knows about and is really just depending on the name of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So I do think that there is something there, but homeboy can't act like it's a mystery. Like you gotta bring up the faults of what you did, how this movie was executed and certainly promoted. But I do think that there is some relevancy to some of the things that he's talking about, like the international box office, along with the idea that look, you are making a movie that's kind of trapped in between two different sort of management regimes. But Rock, let's not act like that's the only reason this movie did not work or why they decided not to move your character a little bit forward. So it is sort of the reworking of history, I think, or what you've left out detail wise, that I think is probably what got Stuart so up, got a little pissed off.
I'm very curious. Why didn't the movie go to China? Was there
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember if there was something in the movie that they canceled the movie about or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think we even graded Black Adam even better than the Flash movie. I can't remember. Maybe I did. I don't know if you did.
oh yeah, I'll definitely give Black Adam that. I think I enjoyed that movie way more than The Flash.
And some people will probably be like, y'all crazy for even thinking that. But I remember thinking that after I watched the Flash movie. Because again, yeah, I enjoyed what it certainly brought. But again, I'm definitely not blind to the 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 concept that just clearly did not work for a lot of people. I know some people probably found it relatively boring because I think you're right, Stuart. I think they just went with that cliche kind of comic book storytelling, and it unfortunately didn't work for them.
Yeah. And again, I think like it was funny when I had saw Black Adam. I remember thinking when I left the theater, oh man, there were some kind of cool ideas that they could have explored. Like I think my favorite was the whole thing where the JSA, didn't intervene with I totally forgot the name of the fictional country in the movie, but they didn't intervene until it became beneficial to them. And I thought like that could be interesting commentary about just America as a whole if they wanted to do something like that, because how we don't intervene a lot of times unless it benefits us. They don't do that though. They brush that all aside. I'm like, whatever. It's a comic book movie, so what are you gonna do? And then I saw Wakanda Forever that same year, and I'm like, oh
Mm.
wait, that's right. Comic book movies can delve into this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
They can
absolutely.
they can be deep with this kind of stuff, and it just like made me dislike Black Adam even more.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what takes your comic book movies to the next level, you know. But yeah, some movies unfortunately are just not quite like that. But listen, guys, Dwayne the Rock Johnson is puzzled by what happened to Black Adam. Are you puzzled, or do you do you know as much as we do? Marcelino says Dwayne Johnson is puzzled why Black Adam failed, while Ben Ramsey, the writer of Dragon Ball Evolution, openly apologized for the movie's creation. Yeah, he definitely could take fault. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in regards to Dwayne The Rock Johnson's comments. Speaking of stars' comments, we got
Oh
another
boy.
we got another star here who's putting his foot in his mouth here this week. But I think we should probably be used to this. Stephen Amell is back in the news, ladies and gentlemen, as Stephen Amell this week, who is a member of the union, mind you. He is a member of the SAG-AFTRA Guild or SAG-AFTRA Union. And this past week, he was at GalaxyCon, I believe, at a convention and answering a question from one of the fans. I guess one of the fans had asked him about what his thoughts certainly were on the strike. And him as a member of the union, look, I think a lot of us over the past several weeks have been so used to the idea of seeing a bunch of actors coming out supporting the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild for striking, right? Low-level actors, working actors, or even some of the top, right? Stuart, you mentioned this earlier, the fact that Dwayne The Rock Johnson donated $1 million to SAG to go ahead and protect those that were part of the union from going broke or being able to still pay their fees and rent and things like that, pay for food, sort of thing. So I think we've gotten accustomed to seeing people not only speak out against the studios and streamers, but being very supportive of the union. And I think this came as a shock to a lot of people. This kind of came out of nowhere when Stephen Amell comes out and says some things along the lines of, I support my union, but I don't support striking. And then the social media went ablaze. So let's talk about this real quick. And look, there was a part of me, Stuart, that I was thinking to myself, should we even talk about this story? Just because I'm like, this man's already gotten it from all sides of the internet this week. But I also didn't want to play favorites concerning the fact that we do tend to love Stephen Amell over here. We talk very openly about Arrow and the Arrowverse and stuff. And listen, if you say some dumb shit, we got to talk about it. Got to hold people accountable. You know what I'm saying, Stuart? So let's go ahead and dive into this. This comes to us from, do I even have my,
Like one thing I'll say before we get into this is that, the reason I can justify us talking about this is that he said this openly and publicly, despite the fact that he later tried to say, I wish this was kept private, which made no sense. We'll all get into that like later. But all that being said, the big thing is that we're doing this on our channel. What we're not doing that I've seen some people doing, and I think this, is not okay. Leave the dude alone on Twitter. All right. if you're the kind of person that constantly like kind of goes onto someone's Twitter to harass them about either something they said or something like that, just don't do that. That's not okay. That's what I'm going to say. If you want to make your own video or your own tweet where you don't tag them, but you give your thoughts on the matter, totally fine. But yeah, don't keep going out of your way to message him or post on his Twitter over and over saying, "Oh, you're a terrible person for this." Yeah, if he's interested in hearing what you have to say about him, he will go to your Twitter and he will find out, or your YouTube channel and watch your video.
So let's go ahead and dive into this. This comes to us from Deadline. Stephen Amell calls actor strike myopic and a reductive negotiating tactic. Stuart, do a Google search for me. Definition of myopic and a definition of reductive for some people out there. Let's go into this article, though, while you do that. It says, this is from deadline.com. It says Stephen Amell, whose star drama series Heels returned for its second season over the weekend, is not going to the mat for the actors' strike that is rattling in Hollywood. It says Amell, most known for playing the lead role in CW's Arrow, has called the SAG-AFTRA strike myopic, incredibly frustrating, and a reductive negotiating tactic. It says Amell has become one, if not the most high-profile actors to speak out against the Fran Drescher-led SAG-AFTRA strike against the AMPTP. While both the actors and writers' strikes have received positive support from a majority of the union and guild members publicly, it's important to note that not everyone supports them, which is extremely fair. He says, I support my union. I do. I stand with them. But I do not support striking. I don't, he said during an appearance at GalaxyCon. I think it is a reductive negotiating tactic, and I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. And I think the thinking as it pertains to shows like the show that I'm on, he's premiered last night, I think it's myopic. So what does reductive mean?
Well, reductive is basically, how would I put it? It's very simplistic. Putting something in a simple way is, or I guess is what it says, especially when that way is too simple. Basically, it's too simple. And then myopic is nearsighted, short-sighted. Yeah, it's blind as a bat is another definition.
Right. So it's the reductive negotiating tactic. So it's a simple tactic. Doesn't think it's very effective, and he does find it as myopic, so kind of nearsighted, right? Like just thinking in the now, not necessarily taking into consideration the after effects or the long-term effects, if it will. Very much, he thinks very much of a simplistic sort of lacking intelligence kind of mindset. And look, this does say in June, nearly 98% of the SAG-AFTRA members voted in favor of handling leadership authorization to walk out, with nearly half of eligible members casting ballots. So not everybody agreed with it, to be fair. Clearly, Stephen Amell is part of the 2% that was like, nope, probably don't want this shit. But now that he said that, plenty of pushback against him after his comments there. So much to the point to where he's like, you know what? People are really eating me alive on the internet. You know what I need to do? I need to talk more. And then he went to TMZ and he gave another interview. He wanted to clarify his statements, if you will. This is from Hollywood Reporter. Stephen Amell clarifies his misinterpreted anti-strike comments in a lengthy statement. So let's see what he says here. He says, understandably, there's been a lot of reaction to the comments I made this weekend about our strike. To ensure there is no misunderstanding about my thoughts and intentions, I'm providing what I actually said and clarity context to ensure my feelings aren't unintentionally misinterpreted. We all know sound bites can be taken out of context, and I have so much respect for my fellow union members to not clarify the record. His PR team was like, bro, you need to say something quick. And so Stephen Amell breaks this down. His first comment he addresses, I support my union. I do. I stand with them. He says it doesn't need much clarity. My support is unconditional and I stand with them. He says, I do not support striking. I don't. He clarifies what this means in full context. I understand fundamentally why we're here. My off-the-cuff use of the word support is clearly contradictory to my true feelings. in my empathic statement that I stand with my union. Of course, I don't like striking. Nobody does, but we have to do what we have to do. So he definitely is suggesting some support there. He says, I think that it's a reductive negotiating tactic, and I find the entire thing incredibly frustrating. And he says, in full context, I'm an actor, and I was speaking extemporaneously. I completely butchered that word. I'm sorry. For over an hour. I emote, but I certainly don't think these issues are simple. Our leadership is an incredibly complicated job, and I'm grateful for all that they do. Despite some of my terrible early acting work, I assure you, I'm not a robot. From an intellectual perspective, I understand why we are striking, but it doesn't mean it isn't emotionally frustrating on some levels for all involved. And I think there's a truth behind that for sure, in the sense that it's frustrating for a lot of the actors.
Oh yeah. Like one thing I'll definitely say here with what he said when it came to like just kind of the emotional like feeling of it. I think that people wouldn't have been like as upset by what he said if that's what if he's just
said
stuck with
originally.
that. If he just said basically it's just frustrating for me emotionally, you know, I get why we're doing it, but yeah, it definitely has taken a mental toll on me, the striking itself. You know, and I do think he does say that it is a tactic that, you know, it's where we are and it's what we have to do. I think that's what he said, right? Go back up a little bit.
Yeah, I think he says, I stand with my union. Of course, I don't like striking. Nobody does, but we have to do what we have to do.
Exactly. And I think that's what it kind of comes down to is that no one, I feel like you could say like that, like any actor who's currently striking right now, and same with the writers, no one's doing it because it's fun for them. They're doing it because every time they've tried having mature negotiations, it's never worked in their favor. You know, there's only so much you can do, and before eventually you're kind of forced to basically strike because they're not giving you any other option. They're not listening to what you have to say. They're not making any changes. They're not willing to compromise. So it's like at this point, you know, you shouldn't be willing to compromise either. At that point, striking is kind of the only option you as an actor or a writer have left. You know, if you're not going to listen to what we have to say, we're not going to work for you. We're done. We're putting our voices and pens down.
And I think for me, if there's anything, because I agree with you, I think that statement that he made, you know, about look, our leadership has an incredibly complicated job, and I'm grateful for all that they do. Despite some of my terrible acting work, I assure you, I'm not a robot. From an intellectual perspective, I understand why we are striking, but that doesn't mean it's emotionally frustrating on many levels for all involved. I wish he would have just, yeah, I agree with you. I wish he would just stop at that, or just
Yeah.
stop at, I support my union. You know, but you know, my question is when you say things like, you know, I don't agree with striking. My question would to Stephen Amell would then be, well, what are your options? Right?
Mhm.
Like what are your suggestions in regards to what are you willing to bring to the table to help these negotiations? If striking is something that you don't believe in, and if you think it's simplistic and it's not forward thinking, you know, if you're going to say something like that, you got to come with another option instead of just saying, oh, I don't agree with it. It's small minded and it's kind of, you know, nearsighted sort of thing. Because that to me, that's just insulting, because it's like this is what they have to do. Like they've tried to do everything in regards to negotiating, but when they're not getting what they're asked for and certainly deserve, striking is very much sort of like your last ditch effort. It's not like this was option one. Striking is usually their final option when you can. And so if you don't think that you know, does anything or is nearsighted, what are your options? How would you solve this situation, Stephen Amell? And he unfortunately just did not say that. And instead, he wind up criticizing them. And so I get the pushback that he's getting. I don't think this man should be canceled for his thoughts. It's clearly his opinion that a lot of people don't agree with, but it's certainly just his opinion. I think it's I think his opinion is nearsighted, but I do wish that he had put some extra. I do wish that he put some extra context to what he was certainly saying. And he says, "Look, he also comments on that last part. I think that thinking as it pertains to the show, like the show that I'm on, that premiered last night, I think it's myopic." He says, "What I meant, and nothing about the strike is funny, but if I may self-deprecate for a moment, I have no clue what I was trying to say here. And who says I think that thinking? Perhaps it was an inarticulate shout out to our crew and cast who mean the world to me. I'm simply sad that we don't have the chance to celebrate a show that all of us figuratively and literally broke my back for. And then he includes, and as I said from the jump, I want to ensure that my thoughts and intentions are not misconstrued. This situation reminds me of the proverb, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, which apparently, after reading the limited amount of the commentary, is a place many of you would like me to visit. However, at least for the foreseeable future, I choose to stand with my union. When you see me on a picket line, please don't whip any hard fruit. So look,
Oh no.
he's not even suggesting the idea that he's not going to be on the picket line. He's very much suggesting the idea that he wants to be there. But he may not necessarily agree with it. And what's even funnier, Stuart, is like literally yesterday or the day before, Mark Guggenheim posted that they were going to have an Arrow reunion on the picket line. And I was like, is Stephen Amell invited, y'all? Like, I don't even know. Are y'all even gonna let Stephen out on the picket line after his comments? So we'll see what happens. But I have been seeing online like a bunch of shows and things like that coming together, taking pictures on the picket line. So maybe Stephen Amell, Mark Guggenheim, and the rest of the cast will be out there. But overall, Stuart, do you think that these are going to hurt him sort of in the long run, or what?
Not in the long run. I think that for the time being, he's going to be getting some crap. But I think as long as he doesn't do anything stupid like cross the picket line and start filming while everyone else is striking, nah, I think he'll be fine once this is all over. I think it'll blow over. Everything will be back to normal. I just, yeah, I'm pretty sure, we all say stuff that we regret immediately after because we just didn't think it through. We all talk out of our ass every now and then. And I think that's exactly what happened to him at that convention. He was talking out of his ass and immediately kind of, whether or not he said this only because his PR team demanded him to, or he actually did mean what he said, when he was clarifying his comments. I don't hold this too much against him, personally, but I can definitely see why some people took it the wrong way at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's always interesting when you have to see a star sort of backtrack on what they said.
Mhm.
Because I do think when they show you who they are, I do think that you should believe them from time to time. And not to say that Stephen Amell's an absolutely terrible person, because to be fair to him, look, there's plenty of times I've seen him on Facebook Live, especially during his time in Arrow when he's done a bunch of charity work and donating to people and things like that. So I do believe that his heart certainly comes from a good place and is filled with good intentions, despite the fact that from time to time, Stephen Amell does get ahead of himself and sometimes put his foot in his mouth. And listen, if you've honestly ever seen him at a convention, the guy is very honest and very truthful and just very open with his fans and just sort of kind of tells it like it is. So I do believe that he clearly meant what he said when he was in the on the convention trail. But I do think if I had any suggestions for him, it would just be just think before you speak, in the sense of when somebody asks you a question, maybe take a second or two, especially if you think that your comments are going to be misconstrued or be controversial. Just take a minute or two to just formulate your thoughts and your words and just articulate it a lot better than what you did. If you support your union, just say, I support my union. And if you're frustrated with it, despite you not agreeing with the strike, just say, sometimes it can be extremely frustrating when we have to go to these lengths when it comes to striking, but you do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I think if he had just said that, he would have been perfectly okay. But he had to go that extra mile, use big words that some people will find insulting if they read it back. Like, it's not as simple as you make it out to be. And the fact that people are striking, there is a reason why we've got that. And I do think also it maybe shines a light a little bit more on Stephen Amell's mindset towards things like that. Because I do think, Stuart, we tend to connect the characters that they play to who they are in real life. And clearly, if Oliver Queen were in Stephen Amell's shoes, he very much would have supported the strike and everything that they certainly do. So I just think it is important that us as viewers start to really separate these actors from their roles and understand who they truly are as people. And just because they portray somebody on TV doesn't necessarily mean that they hold those same thoughts and beliefs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If that makes any sense.
Stephen Amell, you have failed this union. But yeah, the biggest thing too, I just want to say, and the biggest reason I completely
I
disagree with
love I
what he,
love this image. I'm
oh
sorry. I
my
just love
gosh, yeah.
this. The internet's so quick. They win like literally. This probably dropped within like in 2 hours after his comments. Like they were not even playing around.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, something before I give my final thoughts on what he said, something I didn't know about. I had no idea that Stephen Amell actually didn't like this meme. I thought
Oh, he
he was the
didn't?
kind no, I thought he's the kind of dude that would have a really good sense of humor about this kind of stuff, but apparently not. Which is weird to me because, this is coming from the guy who plays pranks, who, him and Jensen Ackles and I forgot the dude's name, but the dude that played Sam in Supernatural. The three of them played pranks on each other like all the time. There's literally an image of Jensen Ackles and Sam peeing on his parking spot,
Oh no.
basically. And it's so weird that he's okay with that. Oh, but Grant Gustin taking a selfie with a grave of a character he played, not Stephen Amell's grave, Oliver Queen's grave, a fictional character. The fact that he's offended by that, I find just really bizarre. But yeah, my final thoughts on what he said. I majorly do disagree with his overall thoughts on striking. I don't think there's anything like short-sighted about striking at all.
Yeah,
I
me
think
either.
striking is a totally good tactic that it doesn't hurt anyone except for, financially, it can hurt the people who are actually on both sides financially. It can hurt both people, but that's kind of what it takes sometimes. Unfortunately, you got to let the CEOs know what it feels like to, not be able to pay your bills the way you need to. So that's kind of what it comes down to. I disagree with him saying that it's not a good tactic. That is a short-sighted tactic. I majorly disagree with him. I can see why it would have an emotional impact on him and anyone involved. But to say that it's not a good tactic, that's just straight up. Not only do I disagree with that, I just think he's objectively wrong when he's on his comments about striking.
Yeah.
Personally,
Yeah, no, I definitely, I totally agree with you there, for sure. But yeah, guys, look. So yeah, if he didn't like that meme, he definitely not gonna like this one,
oh
for sure.
God, no.
He definitely not gonna like that one. But yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And again, if you have any issues with the union, take that up with your union team. But definitely don't be throwing that around in public. But yeah, look, he said what he said. Again, we're not trying to cancel him out here, but sometimes you gotta hold people account and let people know like that was a dumb shit to say. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
We're,
But
we're
all right,
definitely
guys.
not trying to cancel him, and we're definitely not trying to encourage people to harass him. Do not do that.
Yeah,
Is like the big thing.
yeah, I'm sure he's gotten plenty of that already this week. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on Stephen Amell's comments. And then last but not least, Stuart, we'll wrap this up. Since we are talking about the strike, there was kind of some movement this week. They have been having some, or at least trying to have some negotiations finally. Look, pressure is mounting in Hollywood right now. The studios and streamers have a ton of people that are pushing back against them, asking them, please come back to the table at this point. Hollywood is really feeling it. I'm not even quite sure how much California has lost from revenue, and the idea of like just catering and people that work on the cruise and stuff, right? There's a whole pyramid, if you will, of like workers that depend on Hollywood to be functioning properly. And when Hollywood is not functioning properly, there's a lot of pressure that certainly starts to mount. And so we started thinking that this week, it might have finally gotten to the AMPTP, which is the group for the studios and streamers, because they have in fact agreed to meet and sit down once again for negotiations, because I believe they have not been negotiating at all for the past 3 months. So if you've been under the impression that every day somebody is sitting at the table trying to figure this out and they're just not coming to an agreement, that's not the case. They have not negotiated in the past 3 months. And so the fact that they had news this week that they were going to negotiate certainly gave some life to it. But unfortunately, according to Variety.com, they do meet, but no negotiation has been set as of yet. So this is from Variety.com. Again, while we have SAG and WGA on strike, if anything, I believe since WGA went first, they're probably trying to negotiate with them first. Is
Oh,
that
really quick before we read this, just because I'm afraid I'm going to lose this thought later.
go
I
for it?
just want to know, if there's an article out there, people in the comments, please just send it to me. I just want to know what the studio's excuses are for not, not like basically giving into the demands, because the demands seem very, very reasonable, especially when you look at the numbers of what these CEOs are making. So I would just like to hear comments from the CEOs of why they're not just paying their actors and giving them what they're asking for, giving them their like very reasonable, like demands basically. If anyone has an article linking to that, definitely share that with us.
Um, there was a um, there was a article. I'm trying to find it right now, that tries to point out like how much the studios have lost already. I'm hearing something of like $1 billion, if not more than that, that the studios have lost since this strike took place. And when you think about it in hindsight, Stuart, that the WGA was asking for it was like I think when they rounded out like $400 million is what would have taken for them to figure this all out. About $400 million in general is all that they were asking for. And yet the studios would rather lose billions of dollars than just pay these people. That's bananas to me, bro. That's
Wow.
bananas. Like, who financially tells you that's a good idea? God, I have no fucking clue, bro. But let's dive into this. It says Variety.com. It says in their first meeting since the strike began, WGA and Hollywood negotiators hit the same stalemate over two key TV-related contract proposals from the guild as it work stoppage stretches in its fourth month. It says a much anticipated meeting between WGA chief negotiator and a bunch of others. It says Sherman Oaks headquarters of the Alliance Motion Pictures and Television Producers. Sources say that the WGA duo made clear that the guild will not bend on proposals to establish minimum staffing levels in episodic TV and guaranteed minimum number of weeks of employment. The AMPT has called those proposals non-starters and gave no indication on Friday that they're prepared to change that position. The SAG strike, which began on July 14th, has added another complicated factor in negotiations with the writers. Sources say they indicated that even if the WGA gets a deal, writers will still want to honor all picket lines. That would essentially mean that no one could return to work until both strikes are resolved. Talk about unity, bro. Talk about
Mhm.
unity. That irked some of the management side, and I bet it did. I bet it did, because that does, if you ask me, add a completely new wrinkle to things. Who saw that as adding an additional demand on top of the issues already on the table. Representatives for both did not immediately respond to those requests. On Friday night, though, the WGA sent a message to members responding to the studio leaked rumors of the contents of the confidential meeting. The guild provided its own summary of the meeting, in which it confirmed that the studios remain unwilling to engage on the issues related to TV writers' rooms. Additionally, the AMPT is unwilling to discuss a viewership-based residual, which is another key concern for the writers. Says on behalf of the guild, Ellen reiterated the expectation that all the fundamental issues over the writers have been striking these past 3 months would be addressed in this new contract, and that no segment of the membership would be left behind. The union also confirmed that it is seeking the right to honor other picket lines, which in turn currently provided in the Teamsters contract. It says, according to the union, they said AMPT said 3 times during the meeting, people just want to get back to work. We agree with the caveat that these conditions that have made writers' jobs increasingly untenable must first be addressed. A source close to the situation said the sides expect to be back in communication in the next coming days after both leaders discuss Friday's gathering with their respective constituencies. A source described the mood in the AMPTP meeting as a little stiff, but not so stiff that near-term negotiations are impossible. So look, it seems as though that there is hope, but that seem very much still far apart, if you ask me, Stuart. These studios and streamers definitely feel like they are dug in the ground on um, 2 things. Clearly, the viewership based residuals, which I think would probably require them to then show what their metrics are like. And the boogeyman of metrics, we can't let anybody see these. Heaven forbid what that would expose. But then also the idea of a properly staffed TV room and the idea of like a guarantee of how long you're going to be able to work. Because let's remember, some of these contracts, especially again, when you're only, we're out of the days of a 20 episode season that would almost guarantee you a year's worth of work. Now we're down to like 6 to 8 to maybe 10 if you're lucky. And then once you're done writing that, you're out of work. And as when we talked to executive producer James Bethia a couple of weeks ago here, he mentions that some of these contracts have dates on them in which after you're done working, you can't necessarily pick up another job right away for several months. So then you're kind of tied to not being able to have work and rely just off of what you got paid and not even guaranteed a good residual after that. So it really has become sort of a gig economy for a lot of these actors. But how do you feel hearing all this stuff, Stuart? Clearly they plan on coming back. There was no negotiations that were at least approved of. Both sides clearly have to go back to their constituencies and kind of do further details before coming back and sitting down with each other. But how do you think this is going to go in the future if you had to predict, Stuart?
If I had to predict, eventually this is going to do so much damage to these studios that they're going to have to give in. And when they do, it's going to take them a long time to recover. I think for a while, when we start getting back into the more mainstream movies, they're going to look a bit cheap, which is totally fine with me as long as the writing is there. In fact, I actually think we're going to get some really, really strong writing going forward, and acting, because I feel like people are always on their A game when they're stressed, when they're going through a lot. And these writers and actors are definitely stressed and definitely going through a lot. So I feel like, we may have cheaper productions when this is all done as studios try to recover. And, suddenly that money that would have been easy for them to pay back when the strike started actually becomes a struggle for them to pay because they decided to wait so long. So, it's going to be rough for a little bit, but that's totally fine. I think what we're going to get from it from the long run is going to be a more healthy environment for Hollywood as a whole, for the writers and actors working in Hollywood. And then not just that, but because writers and actors aren't the only people that have been a bit underpaid recently. I think like the other big one that I was surprised that they ended up not striking when they originally were going to, but the VFX artists too.
Yes, they need to strike or create a union if they don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that like, if we're going to make things better for Hollywood as a whole, one of the other things we should start looking at too is other like people that work in Hollywood, not just the actors and writers, but the VFX artists as well. I really hope that kind of this creates like kind of a healthier environment for everyone involved. And thus when people are working and they are, working together in a more kind of unified way, there's no pettiness to someone getting paid way more than someone else who's working just as hard, I think we're going to get much cleaner products out of this. We're going to have movies that don't feel as rushed, that don't feel like people are doing it as a job. People are doing it because they're passionate about it, because they feel like they're getting paid what they're actually worth with what they're working with on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anything, I've been hearing a lot of people wanting to try and get involved in these strikes to kind of help out. I think that there have been rumors that somebody like even the governor, Gavin Newsom, might maybe get involved with negotiations. I also heard LA mayor, I think Karen Bass, even suggested maybe being like a mediator for both sides in here to try and come up with something. I don't know how I feel about anybody from the government kind of getting involved, honestly, but look, I do think that there's a lot of pressure on these studios and streamers to certainly make something happen. And look, you might be onto something, Stuart, right? The longer that you wait, the more the studios are going to have to maybe pay. In the sense of, if you had just gotten this done in the long run, there's not like all this accumulation that you're gathering here. So look, I hope that this comes to fruition. The hopeful side of me wants to say, look, maybe by the end of September, beginning of October, maybe we get something along those lines of something kind of figured out. That's still like a month or so away. I mean, maybe even longer than that. Maybe I'm giving it like 2 months, right? Because I'm looking towards the end of September, maybe beginning of October. But I am not without question saying or taking off the table that this could go into 2024. I honestly do think that it would be a terrible decision on their part, honestly. So that's why I'm hoping that they eventually cave from the pressure. That's why I'm saying I think towards the end of September, beginning of October. But from everything that I've been hearing, people are talking about 2024. So I don't think we should take that out of the realm of possibility for sure. Because they are lacking a lot of content as of right now when it comes to their fall schedule, what they're going to be doing for winter 2024. Who certainly knows? But both sides are struggling right now, honestly. But let us know your thoughts, guys, in regards to the WGA negotiations and the SAG negotiations. Let us know your thoughts as we keep you guys up to date. I will continue to do so for as long as this strike goes on, guys. So yeah, but I think other than that, I think that will do it for our main topics today. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly joining us today. There are some comments in here that I kind of want to, let me see. I just want to go through. Marcelino says, if you do plan on watching any independent projects made by independent writers and actors, which projects in particular do you plan on watching? I will say, Stuart, I have not seen Sounds of Freedom yet. I'm a big fan of Jim Cavella as an actor. I did enjoy him in was he Passion of the Christ, I believe. I am fascinated to check out this movie. I know it's got its controversies around it and stuff. My uncle went and saw it a couple weeks ago. He was a big fan of it, and he's definitely not the type to be into like controversies and things like that, right? He's just a movie guy. So there's a part of me that kind of wants to see Sound of Freedom, and I feel that's kind of a pretty independent project, if there is one. It's got its controversies around it, but I kind of want to check one out. And they've got this movie has sort of like this pay it forward concept, which I've never really heard before, but I think people are like buying seats to these theaters for audience goers to go and see, but that doesn't necessarily mean that maybe the theaters are full. Have you run across that before at your movie theater?
Not at my movie theater in particular, but this is a very common thing with Christian movies, specifically.
Right.
And they say it's to pay forward, so more people will go see the movie. But the truth about it is that they just want the numbers to look bigger than they actually are. So movies like God's Not Dead, it was a movie that would not have been anywhere near as successful if churches didn't buy out full theaters to make the numbers look bigger than they actually were.
Okay.
I'm sure like there's also the intent of, oh, we really want people to see
To
this,
see
even
it.
if they don't, even if they can't afford it. I'm sure some
Right.
people who did that, also had that intention going in. But I do think that whether they'll admit it or not, there is a selfish reason to it as well. And that selfish reason is to make the numbers look bigger than they actually are.
I am kind of curious as to what the Rotten Tomato score for Sounds of Freedom is. Let me see if I can look that up here real quick. Because I think that's the complaint that I've been hearing a lot, or some people are like, is that even fair? Like for that to even count as box office when it's a pay it forward. I mean, look, so 69% critics score, audience score is like 99% though. I mean,
Oh, wow.
out of 10,000 verified views. So that's pretty good score. Pay it forward or not. Whether or not that's a 10,000 people review bombing in a positive way, I have no clue. But honestly, the people that I have run across that have seen the movie have enjoyed it. And again, I know the guy that plays the Jim Caviezel is pretty what's the word controversial as of right now. But there is an element of me that kind of wants to see the movie just to see it. So Marcelino, to answer your question, that's probably one that fascinates me a little bit.
Okay. About Independence. There's nothing coming out currently that I can think of that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Yeah. I'll let you know if that answer changes later on.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
With that out of the way, let's get into, well, Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
Yes, it is time for crap, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, for live viewer questions.
And we're gonna get into your guys' live viewer questions today. Let me go ahead and pull this up here so we can go ahead and get these started. Not quite sure how many questions we have ourselves today, but we've been doing pretty good of answering a lot of these. So for those of you who want to know, how do you submit a live viewer question? Well, usually towards the end of the week, I'll go ahead and post something on our community tab. So just simply go over to our main YouTube page, click on that community tab right there, and you'll see a live viewer question post. And then feel free to submit it. And whatever questions we don't get to, we'll definitely answer in its own video. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and tackle this. All right. So first up, we got Datila. What's up, Datila? What are your thoughts on Samoa Joe's character, Sweet Tooth, being edited out of the Twisted Metal poster that was shown during Monday Night Raw? Was this WWE being petty or simply an editing mistake with a Peacock? That's pretty interesting. Let me pull this up here because Datila did send me an image earlier this week. God, where did she send it though? I think she might have sent it on the Facebook page.
How do you accidentally edit someone out of a photo?
Well, let me see if I can pull up the original image. So like the original image for Twisted Metal. Let me go ahead and pull this up here. Like promotion wise, let me see if I have the image.
In my head, I'm thinking of that line from the Lego movie with Will Ferrell. You accidentally, very carefully took the top piece of the building off.
So look, I'm gonna use this example right here. So this isn't what she's talking about, but this is supposed to be the full page, right? It's supposed to be the full poster, right? Of the image itself, not the A+ Hero Report Season 1 review, but the picture itself was the full picture.
We weren't featured in the advertising. Dang.
Yeah, so like when you go to the Peacock page for Twisted Metal, the image literally cuts out Sweet Tooth. So
it's more that it's cropped. Okay.
It's more like it's cropped. Yeah, it's more like it's cropped out. It's more like he's just cropped out of the image. So all you really see is like the clown head on top of the thing, Anthony Mackie, and then his co-star. But they literally like chop off the they crop out the other section of this photo with Sweet Tooth in it.
What was the aspect ratio of the photo? Because if it was 4:3, then I could definitely believe that it was an accident, or just in general, it was a different shape.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I thought it was widescreen for just to fit traditional HD size, but I don't think it was 4.3. But I could be wrong though. But I think there was something else that had happened that even Samoa Joe commented on to suggest that it might have been the WWE that did it. Dantila said, let me resend it. I think she's gonna try and resend the image. If you could send it over to Twitter, Dantila, that would be great. But it does make me believe that there is a level of pettiness here. And I personally didn't think that they can get kind of that petty. There was a part of me that was originally thinking that it was just an editing thing. But the more and more I think about it, there is a part of me that wants to think that they were being a little bit petty. I think it was, I can't remember if it was they left his name out of they left Samoa Joe's name or out of the credits, or I can't remember what it was, honestly, Stuart, but they definitely did something to suggest that they were being kind of petty about it, but leave it up to WWE to do something like that. Damn it. I don't think I can save this Dantila either. It's okay.
Does it let you save images from Twitter?
Not the way that I wanted to. No, don't worry about it then. Yeah, I really want you to see it though, Stuart.
But if you're able to see it though, on your end, is what's the shape of the image?
Here, let me see if I can share this. Hold on.
Awesome. Yeah, they're being petty. The fact that it cuts off right there. Yeah, no, they're just being petty.
I'm like, man, you can't just put my man in the picture. But they must have some really great pull over at Peacock to just be like, hey, no, we don't want you to promote this guy, because he's currently in another wrestling promotion, as you know, in AEW. But that's just a level of petty that I just never even I just didn't think that they would go so far. Like, what did this man do to you to upset you so much? Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Dang.
All right, let's go ahead and get on to. So yeah, you think it's kind of petty too, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see here. We got Marcelino up next. What was your reaction when Harley Quinn poked fun at the DC fandom, where there were two nerds watching Harley Quinn and disagreeing on the show? Where one guy was complaining it was forced female-led show where the villain was the quote-unquote patriarchy, and the other guy was pretty open-minded to the show and was questioning his friend's complaints.
I thought that whole moment between the two of them was hilarious. I didn't think it was I don't know. I think it definitely made fun of not all DC fans or anything like that. They're definitely not trying to say that this is a majority of the Snyder cut fans. But the thing is, the vocal minority that they are loud. They are very loud, and they need to be called out. And I think the way they were called out there was hilarious, especially the fact that the other guy was just kind of mid about it, pretty much, just didn't really care. I think the fact that you had one guy super loud and then acted like his friend who was mutual about it agreed with everything he was saying, I thought that was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's very much on point, honestly.
I also love the shirts that they were wearing. I think if I remember correctly, one of them was wearing a Snyder cut shirt and the other one was wearing a Last Jedi not canon shirt or something like that.
Oh no. Yeah, I don't look if it's the state of society that we live in, because it's true, these motherfuckers are loud when it comes to being on social media. Look, if you want to poke some fun at the truth that's out there, yeah, why not? I'm game for it. Marcina says, what was your reaction when Young Justice season 3, when they did a crossover with Teen Titans Go with the Go cast guest starring to play Doom Patrol cast? What were your reactions during Young Justice season 3?
Oh, that's
when
right.
They did a crossover with Teen Titans Go with the Go cast guest starring to play the Doom Patrol cast?
Yeah, okay, so funny story about that. I saw that clip out of context before I saw Young Justice season 3. So I actually thought that was from an episode of Teen Titans Go originally.
Mm.
Basically there's a thing in Young Justice season 3 where Beast Boy is hallucinating, and so he has like this weird dream where he suddenly it's the art style of Teen Titans Go, and it's him like kind of remembering the time that he lost his original family, the Doom Patrol, but
Ah,
they're drawn in the style of Teen Titans Go, and they're all voiced by Teen Titans Go characters or
that's
the
pretty
Teen
cool.
Titans Go actors. So Robot Man is voiced by Cyborg.
Hi.
I think who is it? Elastigirl is voiced by or not Elastigirl. Yeah, Elastigirl. She's
Mhm.
voiced by Starfire. And it's the female version of Invisible or what's his face?
Negative Man?
Negative Man, yeah, it's like the woman version of Negative Man. I forgot her name from the comic books, but she's voiced by Raven, and then the Chief is voiced by Robin.
I love I love it. I love it. Let's see here. Who
What?
else we got? Peg C. Did I miss something, Stuart? Or you got it?
Huh? Oh no.
Oh, you got
Okay.
Peg C. I don't know if this was talked about before, but what are your thoughts on Toei to make their iconic franchise global like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider? Here's an article from the Illuminati. Okay, I'll get to that in just a second. Let me answer this other question. Did you ever watch the Green Hornet TV show? It aired at the same time as the Batman TV show. If so, what were your thoughts? Are we talking the with like Bruce Lee
Yeah.
Green Hornet TV show? I'm look, I think it was out way before I was born. So if anything, I recall maybe just seeing a couple episodes here and there. I don't think I like literally sat down and watched the Green Hornet sort of religiously. If anything, I was probably more in tune with the Adam West Batman. Like I enjoyed the bright colors and the pow and kablam. Like I love that comic book concept brought to life for Batman TV show. Green Hornet was very true to, I think it's serial sort of classic style storytelling. But I just remember seeing a couple of episodes here and there and appreciating, it really being sort of like one of Bruce Lee's starts in America, if you will. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. But outside of that, I don't really know wasn't really too much into the Green Hornet TV show though.
Yeah.
But
Same here. I
yeah.
don't know much about it. All I know is that they had a crossover with Batman and Robin at one point.
Oh, did they have one of those episodes?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, and then also just I haven't seen season 2 of Invincible yet, so I'll come back to your question at some point in the future. If just remember it for next week for your second question, Marcelino. But I don't have any thoughts on it yet because I haven't seen Invincible season 2 yet.
Yeah, and I'm trying to keep it to like at least 2 questions. I know we haven't gotten a lot of live viewer questions. I just don't want to get into the idea of just having a list of questions. And sometimes just sometimes I don't mind talking about the controversial stuff. But sometimes I get kind of over it.
Mm,
So every now and then is good. Let's see here. But I will get to Peg C's other Illuminati question.
right. Wait, it was in season 1? I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think he said in season 1 or the
Yeah,
Mount Rushmore scene. I think he's talking about.
I guess I have to rewatch some episodes of season 1 then because I actually don't remember.
Let me go ahead and I'm gonna share. Stop this share. Let's see what Ram Jam is talking about here. Toei reveals exciting new wave of 2033 future plans. Is that a real thing?
2033. That's
We
okay.
talking really, or is that a mistype?
Or is it like in the over the next 10 years they're trying to. So like not necessarily they're waiting till 2033, but over the next 10 years they're going to try to distribute more globally.
Toei Company have revealed plans for a global distribution of iconic franchise, including Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. Interesting. Toei Company is planning on the worldwide distribution of Tokusatsu with a newly established department. This was recently revealed to include a plan to release Super Sentai and Kamen Rider content. instead of relying on adaptions. The plan includes a vision of spreading intellectual properties across the world, around the world, to extend their lifespan. Many releases could be expected as fans will finally be able to officially enjoy recent releases that have only been available in Japan. Toei is yada yada yada. Along with the TV series airing on TV, Asahi, they also produce movies every year. Okay. Over the years, popularity, okay, yada yada yada. They haven't been accessible to the rest of the world. This led to the use of unofficial methods such as fan subtitle releases online, which were given a cease and desist when discovered. And some fans said, well, you know what? If you just gave us English subtitles, we wouldn't have to do this anymore, Toei. And maybe they're listening now. Toei is currently working on a global distribution of his intellectual properties with an outline for its, Toei New Wave 2033 plans. This starts with the newly established department called the Character Strategy Department, which will be led by veteran producer Shinichiro Shirakura. Shirakura is known for producing popular series such as Kamen Rider Agito, Kamen Rider 55, Kamen Rider Deno, Sentai Zenkaiger, and Avatar Senkaiger, Sentai Don Brothers. Targeted regions include Asia and Latin America, with secondary targets set as North America and Europe. This would mean that many series previously unreleased or unadapted would finally be made available outside of Japan. This includes Lupin Ranger versus Power Ranger and Don Brothers, which is yet to be adapted as a Power Ranger series. This would also capitalize on the release they have already been distributing for all fans to enjoy, such as Black Sun and Fudo P, by allowing their related past releases to become accessible. Finally, fans will soon be able to enjoy the endless wonders of content they have been seeking for years. This would be a huge win for the tokusatsu community, as there are so many fans that love both franchises. With Power Rangers heading in a new direction away from adaptations, this is the perfect time to finally bless fans with Toei's full library. If successful, fans could see the global distribution on current releases, such as King Osier and the upcoming release Gotchard for Kamen Rider. Oh man, what are your thoughts on this, Stuart? This is huge news, bro. This is like huge news.
Yeah. No, this is exciting for me. And especially I think like now is like the perfect time to do it, like because of not only what they mentioned about like, Super Sentai now being kind of separate from Power Rangers going forward, but also the fact that we've gotten some wide releases with Tokusatsu this last year, and they've been moderately successful. And I know this because like I actually have some coworkers that have known nothing about Tokusatsu, for the most part, but I'm now with one of them in particular, I've started having full-on conversations with him about Kamen Rider because he saw Shin Kamen Rider in theaters, and while he didn't love it, it got him intrigued with the franchise as a whole. So he's actually started to watch both 01 and the original series. So it's like, it's so cool. Like I got someone to talk to about Kamen Rider, something I never thought I'd be able to do. So yeah, I think now is the perfect time to start distributing Tokusatsu like globally, honestly.
Yeah, and I think the testing of things like Shin Ultraman, Shin Kamen Rider, even Shin Godzilla, the idea of those kind of being released slowly here in the United States. I think even Kamen Rider wind up getting more additional dates set to it because the tickets were selling out. I think they probably saw the results of Shin Ultraman and was like, hey, there's clearly an appetite out there. And I think they've kind of been preparing us for that for the past year or so, like the article mentioned with Kamen Rider Black Sun currently on Amazon Prime, Kamen Rider W's sequel, Fudo P, the animated series on I think it was Crunchyroll or Funimation. I can't remember where it was at the time. But yeah, they slowly are adapting this. Look, I honestly was never expecting them to do Super Sentai here just because of the fact that, look, we had Power Rangers, right? But now that Power Rangers is significantly changing, not necessarily going to be utilizing the Super Sentai or Power Rangers formula and maybe doing something significantly different. Um, this is probably the time for them to go ahead and strike. I was under the impression they would just stick with it with Ultraman and maybe Kamen Rider and leave Super Sentai for certainly them to enjoy. But the fact that they want to spread that here to North America and globally, I think is pretty fun. So I like, if anything, I would expect these shows to still be in Japanese, but maybe just now coming with subtitles, very much how they do for the Ultraman series, I think on YouTube, right? I think they
Mhm.
simulcast it at the same time, airing in Japan, but you can catch it on YouTube with English subtitles. I would love to see them do something like that for Super Sentai. One, it would definitely capture the imagination of Power Ranger fans, also that really crave that appetite of sort of classic Power Ranger storytelling. Well, hey, now you got the Super Sentai. You don't got to worry about necessarily adaptions and things watering it down. It's going to be made available to us here in North America, which I think is a huge win. And at the other on the other perspective, it allows Power Rangers to certainly still be its own thing. But if you ask me, Stuart, I think that's even more competition now for Power Rangers. While I do think that they're going to be different, um, I would not surprise me if they're now officially put against each other when it comes to Power Ranger fans. Like if Power Ranger fans weren't divisive enough, now you got Hasbro maybe giving us a new format for Power Rangers and Super Sentai now coming here to the States. Man, I can just see both factions already just button heads, bro, to be honest with you. What are your thoughts though?
I'm so excited for when they both start coming out, and as we kind of start reviewing them, if the new Power Rangers ends up being good, and we're very optimistic about it. I can't wait to get those comments saying that we're fake Power Ranger fans for liking it.
Oh God, we'll see what happens there, man. But I think I think it's a smart and bold move by them, honestly. Separating yourself from Hasbro and the Power Ranger intellectual property, I think is a great idea. Clearly, both sides have had plans for something like this happening, and with them making this push here to Western societies, if you will, with Ultraman and Kamen Rider. Yeah, I guess it was just bound to happen for Super Sentai to get here also. So thanks for sharing that news, Pegsy. I had not heard of that, but I think that's a huge win for Toei for sure. And I think it's going to be very, very appealing for a lot of fans here who have been pleading for Power Rangers to get maybe more adult and stuff. I think
Mhm.
it's a big win for Toei here, honestly. And we'll see how that affects Power Rangers as a whole, though. What else do we got? Blossom. I know you said something last time, but what you think of the redo of Aquaman's original suit? Personally, I like the nostalgia aspect of it, but geez, oh Ruby, it looked weird to me. I'm assuming he's talking about that classic Aquaman suit. I honestly, going into the movie, I didn't know what they were necessarily going to go for with the suit. But I appreciate James Wan sticking true to the classic orange and green because it honestly could have just gone a completely different direction and looked so hokey. But I think they did a really great job suit design of making it really poppin'. If you ask me, a really great comic book movie suit, honestly. But what about you, though, Stuart?
Yeah, no, I agree. I like the version that we got in Justice League. Don't get me wrong, it was really really cool looking, but there's just something about the way the colors just really stick out at the very end of at the very end of the first Aquaman movie. The way they, I don't know, just something about the brightness of it. I love it so much more, honestly.
Hmm.
It's, to me, this is how you adapt something from the comic books. You take something that looked really, still that would have looked really silly like in live action. That suit would have, if they did like an exact one for one adaptation, it would have looked really silly. Maybe they could have made it look cool, but I think the way they adapted it to make it look like armor, but still keep that color pattern, I loved it.
I do have this other his up there's a upgraded one I think we're going to be getting for Aquaman 2. I don't know if this is like a
Yeah.
stealth suit. How do you like that as far as an update? I don't think this is going to be his like he wears this costume the whole movie though. I still think we're going to get the classic suit, or do you think this is his new suit?
I hope it's not his new suit. I think what they're doing, is kind of like the same thing they did in Young Justice. There would be often missions where they were doing more espionage kind of thing. So they
Mhm.
would wear like kind of black versions of their costume, and I really hope that's all we're getting with this one. I really hope it's a very specific mission that he needs this suit for. I really hope it's not like meant to be the upgraded version of his outfit, because it's okay looking, but so far it's my least favorite out of the other Aquaman suits. Like I actually, like, I definitely prefer the Justice League version of the suit more than it.
Oh yeah, I still do like the Justice League version too.
Yeah.
She also says, I know you haven't seen King Ozier yet, but if you could adapt it into Power Rangers, how would you do it?
It would depend for me on the budget. If I had a lot of money, I would make it a full-on fantasy series, like taking
Mm,
place. Like I haven't seen what the Zord fights look like, so maybe if it takes place like in a city, that would be a little challenging to explain away. But if if I was able to, if I had enough money, I would definitely make it like all take place in like kind of a Middle Earth type of a setting.
mm.
But if it was like same kind of modest budget that most Power Ranger shows get, I'd probably make it like somewhat. I do kind of like what Beast Morphers did with RPM. I try to give like very low key tie-ins to Mystic Force in that sense. I would try to make it like a low key kind of sequel to Mystic Force.
I probably would go the route of making it its own world. Um, Making it also a time period piece, so it would be stuck during that era of knights and whatnot. I don't even know what century that was, honestly. But I would probably set it in that period, and I would also probably have it as like a representative from like each continent sort of being like
Mm.
as the kingdom, you know? So you'd have one person representing North America, one person representing, South America, one from Europe, one from Asia, kind of culminating sort of into a team. So it would be like instead of a kingdom, it would be like knights or whatever, if they're in Japan or something, or if it's a maybe he's a samurai or something like that, but he still represents, that time that time period. Maybe something along those lines, so we can kind of get the kingdoms represented, but as a team. I don't know who the big bad would be or what they're all fighting against, but I would probably make it a period piece in its own world, so it's not connected to anything else.
I like that. Yeah.
What else we got? We got Jessica Friedman. Who would you like to see play Supergirl in the new Supergirl movie? And do you think Young Justice could come back one day? Jessica loves her some Young Justice. Um, I I don't know how ratings have been for the last season, but I'm assuming that I don't want to say I assume that there would be another Young Justice season. Do you think we're getting any more?
It's really hard to say. I hope so, but I'm not super optimistic about it.
As far as who I would like to play Supergirl, aside from Sasha Kaye, because she's definitely my first choice. I mean, while I definitely felt some type of way about the Flash, I enjoyed the Flash, but I definitely had my criticisms against it. If there was any really like big shining moments to that movie for me, it definitely was seeing Sasha Kaye as Supergirl. I think there's just so much meat left on that bone in regards to like the a story really worth exploring. Her rawness about her as that character. I think there's so much growth and development that I really want to find out just where her mindset comes from. And she doesn't even necessarily have to play the same Supergirl that we saw in the Flash, but if she can play a Supergirl, I do think that she can definitely deliver. So I still do want Sasha Kaye, but do you have anybody in mind, Stuart, that you would probably want to see aside from her?
Well, Sasha Kaye would be kind of my number one choice because I thought she did a really good job in the Flash movie. I think she definitely showed a lot of potential, and I would love to see that potential kind of grow later on. But if I had to choose someone else, I guess Halston Sage. So I recently binged the Orville, and she was a character I
Oh.
really liked in the show, or her the character she played was one that I really liked in the show. So I think like she's shown that she has like a lot of potential as an actress as well. So I think Halston Sage would also be a pretty good Supergirl.
Um, isn't there an actress's name? Something Sweeney. Damn it, what's her name?
Um,
Sydney Sweeney. Maybe Sydney Sweeney. Is she an American actor? I feel like she's pretty popular these days. I don't know how well she is as an actress. I'm trying to see like what else have I seen her in? If I know she was in Euphoria. She's going to be in the upcoming Madam Web movie also.
oh, I know who you're talking about now.
I wouldn't mind seeing the Sydney Sweeney possibly as a Supergirl.
Yeah. Yeah, I could kind of see that. It's hard to say because I don't think I've seen her in anything besides Euphoria, but I'll see how she does in Madam Web, and I'll let you know my thoughts on that.
What else? What other question we got here? Is my last is a question here. Doomsday. How do you feel about Gal Gadot reprising her role as Wonder Woman in James Gunn's DCU? How would you pull it off, Stuart? Aside from what we mentioned earlier, you know, like the because I've kind of given already like two concepts here.
Yeah.
The idea of her sort of being reborn from clay, if you will, if they wanted to go the utilize Paradise Lost as an story, not only for Themyscira but also for Wonder Woman, and then set her up sort of as a reboot, but her in that sense. Or we could just go with the idea of like, hey, she has survived this flashpoint. She's still the same person she was, and she actually remembers what came before, but she's just been plopped into this new DCU. I'm sure there's probably other ways that you can do it, but those are two theories that we've already kind of thrown around here. But I'm curious if you have a third, or if there's anything that you would like to see done with her, Stuart.
I would have it be kind of explained in her movie or in the Waller series, like one of those two. I would have it be explained that very few people, but some have memories of the old universe.
Mm.
And Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman just happens to be one of those characters, and just use that kind of as an excuse to explain to casual audiences why this universe has some actors that are the same and some actors that are different. You know, so yeah, I think I would go with that route.
I love this image.
It man, the art on that is freaking amazing. Like, I think
That's
you've just
George Perez.
inspired me to go buy it right now. Not
It's one
gonna
of my
lie.
it's one of my favorite artists. It's George Perez. He's absolutely incredible. When my uncle sent this to me, you know, it comes with a slip cover, and so I took the slip cover off, and I was surprised to see what was underneath it. But it's just literally a wraparound cover, and it's so incredibly detailed. But I think it's got like issues 1 through 20 something in here, maybe an annual or two. But again, it's a uh, great stuff in regards to Wonder Woman. And again, it does highlight the concept of I don't know if you can see it in here, but clearly her being birthed from the clay and shaped, and then the god sending down sort of like the one last spirit or whatever to sort of embody this person. And then that is, in fact, the birth of Diana. So she was like literally specifically placed in here by the gods, which I thought was actually pretty cool. And then it even highlights her birth and stuff. It highlights the fall and rise of Themyscira and everything. So I'm hoping that that's something that that he really taps into for this movie. But we'll see, or for the series and movie. Where's the? Hold on. There we go. Do you feel like what Alex said during the finale of Time Force on how Wes didn't survive the battle didn't really make sense? Because Wes is Alex's past ancestor, and if he died in 2001, then Alex would cease to exist.
Yeah, that was my only nitpick with the finale of Time Force. Like, I thought all of it was amazing, but I also just thought, wait. But if he dies in the past, wouldn't that mean that, yeah, Alex in the future wouldn't exist? So I thought that that was a bit confusing in that area.
Yeah, it sounded like a bit of a plot hole there, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Um,
Other than that, like, yeah, I do agree with you. That kind of makes no sense. But everything else about the season finale I thought was so good that it kind of like makes me forget about that like plot hole, honestly.
yeah, absolutely. But other than that, guys, that will wrap up our live viewer questions. So thank you everybody for all your great comments, all your great questions also. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to see. I don't know if Datila is still here. Um, Indy did text us. He says, "I don't want to talk about SummerSlam. Just move along." So he clearly he is feeling some type of way about the results of SummerSlam. But that's okay. Him and Datila will just have to acknowledge me in our next predictions video or review video. So apparently I won. I think I only won by like 2 points, but I'll take it. Yeah. But anyway, guys, let us know what you guys thought about this week's show. If anything, I'll probably add some timestamps to this video later on this week or later on today. We'll probably go ahead and get this posted up on Spotify for you guys also. If you have a Spotify account or you listen to audio podcasts, you can certainly find us anywhere you listen to your podcasts: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Spotify does now have a video option as well to watch these episodes. So I'm going to go ahead and get these timestamped and set up for you guys later on today, or at least first thing on Monday. So look forward to this week's episode of A Plus Hero Report. But other than that, I think that's really about it. Stuart, if people want to follow you on social media, where can they find you?
You guys can follow me on Instagram, no longer Twitter, because I have recently deleted my Twitter just for, personal reasons. But you guys can still find me on Instagram at TurboStew.
Also, if you want to go ahead and comment on these videos, please go ahead and do so. Comments really do help our videos out. So if there's any topics that we talked about, if you want to further your discussion, let your thoughts be known in the comments, and we'll definitely go ahead and follow up with you throughout the week until next week's episode. We definitely have a ton of content certainly headed your way throughout the week as we keep you updated with any news, reviews, and show reviews as well. But other than that, guys, that's going to do it for us here. If you want to follow us on social media, right here at A Plus Opinions, very active over on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Facebook is our main hub right now. So if you want to catch all of our posters, trailers, articles that we drop throughout the week, that's the place for you guys. But until next week, we'll certainly see you then. Do us a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.